Only 17. Seriously, Master Chief Daniel Walker snatched the rifle out of the girl's hands, drove the stock into the frozen dirt, and kicked her file across the range so the pages scattered like trash. You want to play soldier on Christmas Eve here? He shoved her hard enough to put her on one knee in front of 11 laughing men. Crawl for it, that's all 17 is good for. Emily Carter picked up her rifle. She didn't wipe her hands. She didn't say a word. 4 hours later, 6 rounds, 6 skulls, in the dark at 900 meters, and Walker was the one on his knees. If you want to see how this ends, subscribe to the channel and stay with me all the way to the last minute. And do me a favor, drop a comment telling me what city you are watching from so I can see how far this story has traveled. The bus that carried Emily Carter into the Nevada high desert dropped her at a gate with no name on it, only a number, and the number was wrong. She checked it twice against the paper in her hand. The paper said Gate 9, the sign said Gate 11. She stood there in an oversized jacket that had belonged to somebody bigger than her, holding a duffel bag with one broken strap. And she did the thing she always did when the world did not match the paper. She waited. It was Christmas Eve. 22 degrees and dropping. The wind came across the flats in long pulls, the kind of wind that does not gust so much as lean, and she felt it through the jacket and did not shift her weight. A truck came down the access road with its lights on high. It stopped 10 feet from her, and the man who got out did not turn the lights off, so she stood in the glare of them with her eyes down. You lost, he said. No, sir. This is a restricted facility. Yes, sir. You got a name, Carter. The man went quiet for a beat. Then he said, say again. Carter. Emily Carter. I have a report time of 1800. He walked closer. He was a big man in a fleece with no insignia, and he had the kind of face that had been sunburned so many times it had given up and gone permanent. He looked at her. He looked at the duffel with the broken strap. He looked back at her face. How old are you? I'm 17. 17, he repeated, not like a question, like a word he was tasting to see if it was spoiled. Kid, somebody's playing a joke on you. Somebody at a recruiting office thought it would be funny. No, sir. You got orders. She held out the paper. He took it. He read it. He read it again, and she watched his eyes go back to the top and start over a third time, and she knew what he was reading because she had read it 40 times herself on the bus. Most of it was black. Whole paragraphs were black. Her background was black. Her training history was black. The section where a person's life is supposed to be was one long black rectangle, and underneath it, in clean, unredacted type, was a single line. Approved for advanced sniper evaluation. Priority, do not delay. The man's jaw moved. He folded the paper very carefully, the way you fold something you have decided not to argue with, and handed it back. Get in the truck, he said. She got in the truck. He did not talk for the first 2 miles. Then he said, Name's Reyes. I run the range detail. Yes, sir. Don't call me sir. I work for a living. He glanced at her. Who signed that? I don't know. You don't know who signed your own orders? No, said Who told you to come here? A man called the house. What man? He didn't say. Reyes laughed once without humor. Kid, you got on a bus for 11 hours because a man who wouldn't give his name called your house. Emily watched the road. He knew my father's call sign, she said. Nobody knows my father's call sign. Reyes stopped laughing. The truck came over a rise and the facility spread out below them, low buildings and light towers, and the long dark line of the range fanning out into nothing. Reyes slowed down. I'm going to tell you something, he said, and I'm going to say it once because I'm not a cruel man. The team you're about to meet is Master Chief Walker's team. They have been shooting together for 9 years. 2 of them hold Navy records. Walker himself has more confirmed long shots than anybody currently breathing on this coast, and he has a very specific opinion about people who show up with redacted files. What opinion? That they're liars? Reyes pulled up outside a building. He's not going to be nice to you. Nobody's going to be nice to you. You want my advice? Don't try to be tough. They eat tough. Just shoot and go home. Emily got out of the truck with her duffel over her shoulder. Thank you, she said. For what? For telling me. Reyes watched her walk toward the door and said to nobody, Merry Christmas, kid. Inside, 12 men were eating. They had pushed 2 tables together, and somebody had strung a line of red and green lights along the wall, and there was a plastic tree about 2 feet tall on the counter with a bottle cap on top of it instead of a star. It was a room full of men who had all missed the same holiday doing what men do about that, which is make noise. The noise stopped in about 3 seconds. A chief petty officer named Boone saw her first. He put his fork down. He said. What? Said the man next to him. There's a kid. 12 heads turned. Emily stood in the doorway with the duffel and the cold coming in off her jacket, and she said, I'm looking for Master Chief Walker. Nobody answered. Somebody laughed a short, surprised bark and cut it off. Then a voice from the end of the table said, You found him. Daniel Walker was 51 years old. He had gray and a crew cut in a jaw that had been broken twice, and a stillness about him that made the room organize itself around wherever he was sitting. He did not stand up. He looked at her over the top of a coffee cup. Who are you, saw? Emily Carter. He set the cup down. Say that again. Emily Carter, I'm here for the evaluation. Walker's face did something complicated and fast, and then it closed. He put his hand out, palm up. File. She gave it to him. He opened it, and the room watched him read, and Emily watched him read, and she saw the exact second he hit the black rectangle. His eyes stopped. His thumb went still on the page. This is a joke, he said. No. This, Walker said, and he lifted the folder and turned it so the men could see it, is 9 pages of black ink and 1 sentence. 9 pages. Boone, when's the last time you saw a file this clean? Never, Master Chief. Never. Walker looked at her. You know what a file like this usually means? No. It means somebody's covering something. It means a general's nephew washed out of a school and somebody's papering it over. It means I'm about to waste 4 hours of my team's Christmas because a person with a title wants a favor. He set the folder down and folded his hands. So let's save everybody the time. Who's your sponsor? I don't have one. Everybody has one. I don't. Then how'd you get here? A man called. Walker's mouth flattened. A man called. A chief down the table named Tanner said, Master Chief, she's 17. That's not a security issue. That's a truancy issue. The table laughed. It was not a mean laugh exactly. It was worse. It was an easy laugh, the laugh of men who did not think anything at all was at stake. Walker did not laugh. That was the part Emily noticed. He watched her while they laughed, watching for the thing that laughter usually shakes loose out of a person. The flinch or the flush or the chin coming up, and he did not get any of it because she was just standing there with her duffel waiting for him to finish. You got a shot count, Walker said. Yes. What is it? That's not in the file. I'm not reading the file, I'm asking you. I know, she said. It's still not in the file. The room went a little quieter. Tanner said, Oh, she's got attitude. That's not attitude, Walker said slowly, and attitude talks. He stood up. He was a foot taller than she was, and he came around the table and stopped in front of her, and the room got very still. Kid, I'm going to be direct with you, because in about 10 minutes, I'm going to have to explain to my team why they're not eating. Are you a shooter, or are you a favor? Emily looked up at him. I'm cold, she said. Where do I put my bag? Somebody at the table said, Oh, under his breath. Walker's eyes narrowed about a millimeter. Boone, he said, get her a rack in the transient hut. Kid, you're on the line at 2000. Bring your own gear if you've got it. If you don't, we'll find you something, and then we'll all know, won't we? Yes, she turned to go. Carter, she stopped. You brought your own? Yes. What is it? She said a make and a model and a barrel length and a twist rate, flat the way you say your phone number. And then she said the load. And then she said the specific lot number of the ammunition. And then she went out the door. The room sat there. Tanner said, Did she just say the lot number? She said the lot number, Boone said. Who says the lot number? Nobody answered him. Walker stood looking at the door for a long moment. Then he picked up the folder again, and he opened it to the front page, and he looked at the redaction, and his thumb moved back and forth over the black bar, like he could rub it off. Master Chief, Boone said, nothing. You know that name? Walker closed the folder. No, he said. It was the first lie he had told in 9 years. Outside, the temperature was going through 18 degrees on its way down, and Emily Carter sat on the step of the transient hut with her rifle case across her knees and did not open it. Reyes found her there 20 minutes later. You're going to freeze, he said. I'm fine. You're not fine, your lips are gray. Get inside. It's warm inside. That's the idea, kid. No, she said, I mean it's warm inside and it's 20 degrees out here, and I'm shooting out here at 2000. She looked up at him. If I sit in eyes for 2 hours, my hands will be warm and my breathing will be wrong and I'll pull my first 3 shots. So I'm going to sit out here until my body stops arguing about it. Reyes stood there for a second. Then he sat down next to her on the step, grunting, and pulled out a thermos and poured a cup and held it out. That'll warm me up, she said. It's water. She took it. They sat. He hates you, Reyes said. He doesn't know me. That's not a requirement. Reyes screwed the cap back on. 9 years ago, Walker had a kid on his team, 20 years old, best natural shooter he ever saw. Kid came in with a file like yours, all blacked out. Turned out he was somebody's son, and he'd been passed along through 3 schools he should have failed. Walker took him on a job anyway. Emily waited. He didn't come back, Reyes said. Neither did 2 other guys. So Walker doesn't trust black ink. Walker doesn't trust black ink. Emily drank the water. That's fair, she said. Reyes turned his head and looked at her. That's fair, kid. He humiliated you in front of 12 men. He's afraid, she said. People who are afraid say loud things. That's not the same as being wrong. Reyes did not say anything for a while. Then he said, how old are you really? 17. When'd you start shooting? 6. 6. My dad had a range behind the house, 200 meters to a stump. She turned the cup in her hands. He used to make me call the wind before he'd let me touch the rifle. I'd stand there and say left to right 4, and if I got it wrong, he'd make me say why I got it wrong. Not just wrong, why. That's a hard way to raise a kid. He wasn't hard, Emily said. He was patient. There's a difference. Hard people yell. He'd just wait. Where's he now? She did not answer. Reyes let it go. At 1940, she stood up and her hands were the temperature of the air, and she opened the case. The range at 2000 was a long, flat table of dark, and the light towers threw everything into a hard white that killed depth perception at 50 meters. 12 men were on the line. Emily was 13. Walker ran it himself. Course of fire, he said, in 6 stations. Cold bore at 400. Time pair at 6. Unknown distance, no rangefinder, you eyeball it or you don't. Mover at 750, barricade at 8. Final at 900 plus wind call only, no correction data, no spotter. Everything scored on first round impact. Cranial box, or it's a miss. Not a wound, not a hit, a miss. He looked down the line. This is not a qualification, this is an evaluation. Somebody is going to read the numbers. Shoot accordingly. Then he looked at Emily. Carter shoots last. Boone said, Master Chief, if she shoots last, the wind will have shifted twice. I'm aware, that's not the same course. It's the same course, Walker said, in worse conditions. If she's what the paper says she is, she'll like it. Tanner laughed. Emily said, that's fine. Walker turned. What? I said that's fine. She was checking her bolt. Wind at 2300 hours is honest. Wind right now is lying to you. You've got heat coming off the pads from the day, and it's fighting the katabatic coming down that slope, and it'll settle out around 10. If I shoot last, I'll get a cleaner call than any of you. The line went quiet. Tanner said, Kata what? Cold air falling off high ground, Emily said. It's why your 600 is going to push you left about 1.5 inches in the next hour, and you're going to blame your ammunition. Boone said very quietly, who? Walker's face did not change. Shoot, he said. They shot. And here is the thing that Emily Carter understood while she stood behind those men in the cold with her hands going numb on purpose. They were good. They were not good the way a video is good. They were good the way water is good at going downhill, which is to say without any performance in it at all. Boone put 4 rounds into a box the size of a paperback at 600 meters in 19 seconds and did not comment. Tanner called his own wind at 750 on a mover and hit it twice and got up and said, sights are a hair off, which was a lie he told to be polite about the fact that he had not missed. A quiet man named Kessler, who had not spoken a single word to her, shot the barricade at 800 from a position that Emily would have said was not a position and hit. And then Walker shot. He shot last of the 12, and he shot the way old men fight, which is with no wasted motion whatsoever. He went to the 900 and he did not use a spotter, and he lay down and Emily watched his back, and she watched the exact moment his breathing went from a man's breathing to something slower and stranger, and he fired one round. The speaker crackled. Impact. Cranial. Nobody cheered. That was the part that told her everything. 12 men watched their leader make a 900-meter first-round cranial hit in a crosswind at night, and not one of them made a sound, because to them it was not an achievement. It was Tuesday. Walker got up. He handed his rifle to Boone without looking at him. Scores, he said. Boone read them out. The team's number was very high. It was the kind of number that ends arguments. Walker turned around. Carter, he said, that's the standard? And he said it the way you set a chair in a doorway. Emily nodded. Okay, she said. Okay, which home? Yes. That's all you've got to say. You asked me if I understood the standard, she said, moving past him with her rifle. I understood it. What else do you want me to say? Tanner said under his breath, but not that far under. She's going to embarrass herself. Emily stopped. She turned around and looked at him, and it was the first time all night she had looked directly at any of them. And Tanner, who had done things in 3 countries that he would never tell his wife about, actually took half a step back. Chief, she said, at 600 you had a good group. It was 2 inches left. You wrote it off to your barrel. So it wasn't your barrel. Kid, I've been shooting that rifle for 6 years. Yes, Emily said, and for 6 years you've been shooting it in daylight. She turned and walked to the 400. Boone whispered, Tanner. Tanner, did she just... Shut up, Tanner said. She lay down at the 400, and the range went silent. Not respectful, silent. Not yet. Just silent the way a room goes when everybody has decided independently that they want to see the crash. She did not check anything. That was what unsettled Walker, first standing behind her with his arms crossed. Every shooter he had ever trained had a ritual, and rituals are just fear with a schedule. Boone tapped his magazine twice. Tanner cleared his throat. Kessler counted backward from 5. Walker himself, and he had never told a living soul this, said his daughter's name once before a cold bore every single time for 11 years. Emily Carter laid down and put her cheek on the stock and stopped. That was it. She stopped. 40 seconds went by. Boone shifted. Is she asleep? No, Walker said. 80 seconds. Tanner said, Master Chief, we're on a clock. We're not on a clock. Respectfully, it's Christmas. Then go inside, Walker said, and did not take his eyes off her back. Because he had seen this before. He had seen it exactly once 20 years ago in an army man he had worked beside for 11 days in a place he had never named out loud. And that man had done the exact same thing, laid down and stopped. And Walker had asked him what he was doing, and the man had said, I'm listening. Emily fired. The speaker crackled. Impact. Cranial. Boone said, cold bore 400, that's not. Quiet, Walker said. She worked the bolt. She did not look up. She did not check the score. She got up and moved to the 600, and she was already lying down before the range officer finished calling the station. Timed pair. 2 targets, 10 seconds. She fired at 3 seconds and 6 seconds. Impact, impact. Cranial, cranial. Tanner said, that's a fluke. Nobody answered him. Unknown distance. No rangefinder. Walker had put that station in himself years ago because it was the one thing you could not fake. You either had the reps in your bones or you did not, and if you did not, you would be off by 40 meters, and 40 meters at that range is a story you tell at a funeral. Emily looked at the target for 9 seconds. 710, she said. The range officer looked at his sheet. He looked up at Walker. Walker said, what's the actual? 712, Master Chief. Boone said, oh, come on. She fired. Impact. Cranial. And that was when it stopped being funny. You could feel it go all along that line. It went out of the men one at a time like lights in a building at night, and what replaced it was not admiration. Not yet. It was something more uncomfortable than that. It was the feeling a professional gets when he realizes he is not watching a talented amateur, he is watching a peer, and he did not consent to that. Tanner stopped talking. Kessler, who had not said one word to anybody in 4 hours, walked up and stood next to Walker and said quietly, Master Chief, I see it. No, Master Chief. Kessler's voice was strange. Watch her bolt. Walker watched her bolt. She was not lifting her head. Between shots, she was cycling the action with her cheek still welded to the stock eyes still down the glass. and she was doing it in a way that did not disturb the rifle by 1 millimeter. And it was the smoothest piece of work Walker had seen in a decade, and it was being done by a person who could not legally buy a beer. "Where does a 17-year-old learn that?" Kessler said. Walker did not answer. The mover at 750 came next, and it came fast because the range crew was angry now, in the way crews get when the show has gone wrong, and they ran it at the high-speed setting without announcing it. Boone said, "Hey, that's not the..." Emily fired. "Impact. Cranial." Boone shut his mouth. "Barricade at 800. She built the position in 4 seconds. Walker counted. 4 seconds, and it was not a pretty position. It was an ugly, low-torqued, uncomfortable thing that used the barricade as a brace instead of a rest, and it was. Walker understood with a small, cold feeling in his stomach exactly the position you build when you have been taught by someone who cared more about you living than about you looking good. Impact. Cranial. And then the 900. She walked to it, and the wind had turned exactly the way she had said it would, and it was coming across now full and steady with a little fishtail in it near the berm. She lay down. Walker walked out and stood over her. "Carter." "Yes." "You want the data?" "No." "It's offered." "I know. Take the data." She turned her head and looked up at him, and her eye was watering from the cold, and she said, "Master Chief, if I take your data and I hit, you'll say it was your data. And if I take your data and I miss, I'll have missed with somebody else's numbers, and I don't do that." Walker stood there. "Why not?" he said. And Emily Carter said very simply in a voice that had nothing in it at all, "Because that's what happened to my father." The wind pushed across the range. Walker did not move. "What?" he said. She had already turned back to the rifle. "Carter." She was gone. Not physically. She had done the thing again at the stopping, and Walker stood over her in the cold and realized he was talking to a body that had left. 90 seconds. 2 minutes. Boone came out. "Master Chief, do we?" Walker put a hand up. 2 minutes and 40 seconds. And then very quietly, Emily said, "There." She fired. The speaker did not crackle right away. 3 seconds. 4. "Master Chief," the range officer said, and his voice was different. "You need to come look at this." "Say it." "Impact. Cranial." A pause. "Master Chief, it's dead center. It's the center." Kessler said out loud to nobody, "At night with no data. First round." Emily worked the bolt cheek down and got up and picked up her brass and put it in her pocket and stood there with her rifle hanging from one hand, looking at Walker. "Is the assessment complete?" she said. Nobody said anything. She had fired 6 rounds and put 6 through the cranial box, first round every station in worse conditions than the men who had gone before her, including 1 shot at 900 and change, with nothing but her own eyes and whatever her father had put in her head before he stopped being available to put things in her head. Boone was the one who finally broke, and what he said was not clever. He said, "Master Chief, that's more than the whole team." "I know what it is." "No, I mean..." Boone was actually holding the score sheet with 2 hands like it might get away. "First round cranial. We're 11 for 12 as a group across those stations. She's 6 for 6. Her rate is..." He stopped doing the math out loud. "Her rate is triple ours on the hard stations." Tanner said, "That's not possible." "It's on the sheet, Chief." "Then the sheet's wrong." "Chief, the sheet is wrong, Boone." And Kessler said quietly, "The sheet's not wrong. You just don't like it." Tanner turned on him. "Enough," Walker said. He said it at a completely normal volume, and every man on that line stopped. Walker walked out to Emily. He stopped in front of her. The wind pulled at his collar. "Carter." "Yes, Master Chief." "What did you mean?" He said, "That's what happened to your father." And Emily Carter, 17 years old, holding a rifle that weighed almost as much as the confidence of every man behind her, looked up at him and said, "You know what I meant." Walker's face went white, not red, white. "Say his name," he said. "You first," she said. And for the first time in 9 years, in front of his entire team, on Christmas Eve in the middle of the Nevada desert, Master Chief Daniel Walker could not speak. Boone said, "Master Chief?" Walker did not hear him. He was looking at a 17-year-old girl, and he was seeing a man he had left behind, and the wind came down off the high ground exactly the way she said it would at exactly 10 o'clock, 4 miles an hour, left to right, honest as a knife. Carter, he said, and his voice was not his voice. Where is your father? You tell me, Emily said. You were the last man to see him alive. The range was silent. 12 men who had heard every kind of noise a human being can make heard nothing at all, and every one of them was looking at their Master Chief, and every one of them saw it, the thing they had never once seen on that face in 9 years. Fear. Walker took one step back. Who called you, he said. You know who called me. Who called you, Emily? And she said, he said you'd deny it. He said you'd love made us foreign, and you'd say the name meant nothing to you, and you'd try to make me shoot last so I'd fail in front of everybody. And he said if I hit the 900, you'd have to say it out loud in front of your team because you wouldn't be able to carry it another minute. Walker's hands were shaking. He said, Emily went on, and her voice finally cracked one small hairline fracture right down the middle of it. He said Daniel Walker is not a bad man. He said Daniel Walker is a man who made a decision at 4 a.m. with bad data, and it cost him everything. And he has been paying for it every day since. And Emily, when you meet him, you be kind. She stopped. She wiped her face with the back of her wrist, angry at herself for it. So I'm being kind, she said. This is me being kind. I shot your course and I didn't say a word for 4 hours, and I let your men laugh at me because a man I love told me to be kind to you. Walker said, Emily. Where is he, she said. Emily. Where is my father? And Master Chief Daniel Walker opened his mouth to answer her. And that was when every light on the facility went out at once. The range went black. The towers, the buildings, the road, all of it gone in one snap, and the only thing left was the stars and the sound of the wind. Boone said, that's not a power failure. Kessler was already moving. Master Chief, an alarm started somewhere low and mechanical, the kind that is not a drill because drills happen on Tuesdays at 10 in the morning. Reyes came out of the dark at a dead run with a radio in his hand and his face wrong. Master Chief, he said, perimeter sensors on the northeast. Multiple, moving. How many? That's the thing. Reyes swallowed. It's not the sensors that got tripped at first. Then what was the gate log? Reyes held up the radio like it had bitten him. Master Chief, but he badged in through the north gate 11 minutes ago with a real credential. It scanned clean. Whose credential? Reyes did not want to say it. Whose credential, Reyes? And Reyes said, it's a dead man's. Emily Carter, standing in the dark with a cold rifle in her hands, said without any expression at all, say the name. Reyes looked at her, and then he looked at Walker. And Walker, in the dark and the wind, with 12 of the best shooters in the United States Navy standing behind him, and a 17-year-old girl standing in front of him, closed his eyes. Carter, he said, Captain Michael Carter, 2,200 in 4 hours. The name went across that range like a rifle shot, and nobody moved. Captain Michael Carter, Walker said again, and it came out of him wrong, cracked in the middle, a man's voice with the bottom broken out of it. That's whose credential just scanned. Reyes said, Master Chief, that's not possible. That badge was deactivated 6 years ago. I know because I filed the paperwork myself. Then somebody reactivated it. Nobody can reactivate a dead man's badge. Somebody did. Boone said, Master Chief, we're standing in the open with no lights and 12 rifles that are all still hot. Whatever this is, we should not be having this conversation out here. Walker didn't answer. He was still looking at Emily, and Emily was not looking at him. She had turned her whole body toward the north, toward the dark, where the gate was, and she had gone completely still in a way that made Kessler take a step back without knowing why. Emily, Walker said, don't talk to me. Emily, don't. Her voice was flat and low, and it did not shake. You lied to my face 2 hours ago. You held my father's palio in your hands, and you said the name meant nothing to you, and now you're going to stand here and say it out loud, like you've been carrying it for me. Don't. Tanner said, hey, kid, watch your mouth. Emily turned her head and looked at him, and Tanner, who had not been afraid of a teenager in his entire adult life, felt something walk up his spine. Chief, she said, in about 90 seconds, you're going to want somebody on that north berm who can shoot in the dark without a scope light, and it isn't going to be you. So I'd stop talking and start moving. Boone said, Master Chief. Move, Walker said. 2,206. They moved. 12 men who had spent 9 years learning how to disappear went from standing in a laughing knot to being nowhere at all in under 9 seconds, and Emily went with them, and Walker realized halfway to the berm that she had not asked where to go. She had just gone. She had picked a spot he would have picked on the low side out of the skyline with the wind in her face, so her sound didn't travel, and she had gotten there before he did. He dropped in beside him. Carter. What? Are you armed? You watched me shoot 6 rounds an hour ago. With what? With what I brought. How much? She didn't answer for a second. Then she said 40. 40 rounds. 40 rounds of the lot number I told your team, which you all thought was funny. Walker closed his eyes for half a second. Nobody thought it was funny. 12 men laughed. They laughed at your age. They laughed at me, Emily said. And you let them because it was easier than saying my last name out loud. So let's not do the part where you're my friend now. Let's do the part where you tell me what's coming through that gate. 2208. Reyes's voice came over the net low. Master Chief, I've got the log up on backup power. The badge scanned at 2153. Single credential, North Vehicle Gate. It didn't just scan clean, it scanned with the right biometric. Boone said, say that again. It scanned with a thumbprint, Chief. Whose thumbprint? Whose do you think? Nobody said anything. Kessler said quietly on the net, Master Chief, if that's a spoof, it's the best spoof I've ever heard of. Nobody spoofs a print on a Navy gate for fun. Then it's not a spoof, Emily said. The net went dead quiet. Tanner said, Kid, get off the radio. She's on my net, Walker said. Say it, Carter. Emily's voice was steady. It's not a spoof because whoever's doing this doesn't want in. If you want in, you cut the fence. You don't badge through the front door with a name that makes everybody stop breathing. He used that badge because he wanted you to say my father's name out loud in front of your team, and you just did it, and you did it 11 minutes after he scanned. Silence on the net. Then Boone said, oh, that's not good. He's not attacking the facility, Emily said. He's running you. He's been running you since the second that man called my house. Walker said, who called your house, Emily? You keep asking me that like you don't know. I don't know. Yes, you do. Emily, I swear to God, I don't know. And she turned her head in the dark and looked at him and she said, he said you'd say that too. 2211. The alarm cut off. It did not fade. It stopped mid-cycle like somebody had reached over and put a hand on it, and the silence that came after was worse than the noise. Reyes said, Master Chief, that's not me. I'm not touching it. Somebody's in the control hut. Who's in the control hut? Nobody's supposed to be in the control hut. Reyes, there's nobody in the control hut, Master Chief. I've got eyes on the door, and the door hasn't opened. Kessler said, then he's not in the hut. He's in the system. And then the lights came back on. All of them at once, the towers and the buildings and the road and the range blazing, and 12 men who had just gotten comfortable in the dark were suddenly lit up like a stage. Boone said out loud, not on the net, oh, you son of a... Down, Walker said. Everybody down. Nobody moves. Tanner said, he just burned our night vision. That's deliberate. Yes, it is. That's a shooter's move, Master Chief. I know what it is. And Emily said in a voice so calm it made Walker's stomach turn, no, it's not a shooter's move. It's an instructor's move. Walker turned his head. What? He didn't blind you to kill you, she said. He blinded you to teach you. She pushed her cheek down onto the stock. My father used to do that to me. He'd wait until my eyes adjusted, and then he'd turn the porch light on, and he'd say, now shoot, and I'd say, I can't see, and he'd say, then don't use your eyes. 2213, Reyes said, Master Chief, I've got movement, northeast 600 out, one body, one us. Tanner said, nobody comes at a SEAL element alone. One body, Chief, walking. Boone said, walking, not running, not crawling, walking, straight down the access road like he's going to church. Walker said, Kessler, glass him. A pause. Kessler, another pause. Then Kessler's voice came back, and it was not right. Master Chief, he's carrying a rifle at the low ready, and he's making no attempt at cover, and he's got his hands visible, and he's, say it. He's got a white cloth tied to the barrel. Boone said, he's flagging in. He's not flagging in, Emily said. Kid, that is his surrender flag. It's not a surrender flag. Her voice had changed. Something had come into it that Walker had not heard all night and did not like. It's a wind flag. Nobody said anything. It's a wind flag, Emily said again, and now it was shaking. You tie a strip of white on the barrel so the guy at the other end can read your air. You don't do it for yourself. You do it for the shooter you are walking toward. It's a courtesy. It's what you do when you want the other man to have a fair shot at you. Kessler said very quietly, Master Chief. Walker said, I hear it. Who does that? And Emily Carter said, my father does that, 2215. The net went completely silent for 4 seconds, which on a net that has 12 professionals on it is a very long time. Then Tanner said, no, absolutely not. Master Chief, this is a manipulation. This is somebody who read a file and is walking a script at us, and this kid is the payload. She's the delivery system. They didn't send a shooter, they sent a story and we are eating it. Tanner. Master Chief, look at it. A 17-year-old shows up with a black file on a night when we're minimum staffed. She shoots a course nobody her age can shoot. And 11 minutes later, a ghost badges through the north gate carrying a wind flag. That's not a coincidence. That's a screenplay. Somebody wrote this. And Emily said, yes. Tanner stopped. Yes, she said again. Somebody wrote it. That's the part you're all going to have to sit with. Somebody wrote this whole night and everybody in it, including me, including the joke about my age, including where you were standing when you made it. She swallowed. The man who called my house told me what Master Chief Walker would say when I walked in the door, word for word. He said he'll hold your file up so the room can see it, and he'll say 9 pages of black ink and 1 sentence. Boone said, that's whoosh what he said. Boone, Walker said, Master Chief, that's what you said. Verbatim. I was sitting right there. Boone, he said it verbatim. Master Chief, 2216. Walker put his forehead down on the back of his hand for 1 second, just one, and Emily saw it, and it was the first honest thing she had seen him do. Then he lifted his head. Reyes, go. Range to that man. 5:10 in closing. Everybody hold. Nobody fires. Nobody so much as breathes on a trigger without my voice in your ear. Is that understood? 12 acknowledgments came back. Then Walker said, Carter. What? Do you have him? A pause. Yes. Where's your crosshair? Another pause. Longer. Emily, Walker said, where's your crosshair? And Emily Carter said, on his chest. Kessler said, Master Chief. I heard her. Master Chief, she's got a solution on a man who may be. I heard her, Kessler. 2217. Emily Walker said, and he made his voice as ordinary as he could make, at which was not very. Take your finger off the trigger. It's not on the trigger. Take your hand off the grip. No. Emily. Master Chief, she said, for 6 years I have been told my father is a black rectangle. 6 years. I sat in a school counselor's foyer when I was 12, and a woman with a name tag told me that closure is a choice you make. And I said, ma'am, closure is a piece of paper somebody won't give me, and she wrote oppositional on my file. Her breathing was even, her voice was not. So no, my hand stays where it is. Because there is a man walking toward me in a straight line with a wind flag on his barrel, and I am 17 years old and I have exactly one chance in this entire life to be looking through the glass when I find out. Nobody on that net said a word. Then Boone, who had 4 kids and no ability to keep his mouth shut, said, Kid, if it's him, don't. And Emily said, I know, 2219. 400, Reyes said. Master Chief, he's stopped. Stopped where? Middle of the road, 400 meters. He's just standing there. Tanner said 400. That's not a random number. No, it's not, Walker said. That's her cold bore station. I know. Master Chief, he stopped exactly on her cold bore line. I know, Tanner. Kessler said, he's putting the rifle down. Boone said, what? He's putting it down. He's laying it in the road. He's stepping back from it. A pause. Master Chief, he's got both hands up. Reyes said, he's talking. He's 400 meters out. Reyes, nobody can hear him. He's not talking to us. And then the range speakers came on. The big ones, the ones that called impacts. They popped and hissed, and a man's voice came out of them and rolled across that whole desert facility, and it was tired, and it was old, and it was calm. Danny, it said. Walker made a sound. It was not a word. Boone, lying 11 feet away, would remember it for the rest of his life and never once describe it to anybody, because there was no honest way to describe the sound a 51-year-old man makes when the floor of his life goes out. Danny, the voice said again, don't let them shoot me. I've got a kid out there. 2220. Tanner said, that's a recording. That's a recording, Master Chief. That's got to be a... It's not a recording, Kessler said. You don't know that? He's 400 meters out with his hands up, and his mouth is moving in time with the speakers. Chief, it's not a recording. Boone said, how is he in the PA system? He's not, Reyes said, and Reyes sounded like he was going to be sick. Master Chief, the PA is hardwired to the control hut, and I am looking at the control hut, and the door is shut, and there is nobody. In the hut. Then how? I don't know how, and Emily said, he's got a hand mic. Everything stopped. He's got a hand mic, she said again, and her voice was doing something terrible going up at the edges, a 17-year-old's voice fighting to stay at professionals. There's a hardline junction on the range access road. It feeds the towers. It's got a maintenance port. If you've got the key and you've got a mic, you can talk on the whole facility from the middle of the road. Boone said, how do you know that? Because he told me about it, Emily said. When I was 11, he said if you ever get lost on a big range, find the junction. They always put it at the 400 marker because that's where the cable run splits. He said it while he was making pancakes. Silence. He said it while he was making pancakes, she said again, and this time it broke. 2222. Danny, the voice said, I know you're on the North Berm. You've been on that berm since 99, you never change. It's why you're still alive. I need you to listen to me for 60 seconds, and then you can do whatever you want. Walker keyed the range officer's channel. His hand was not steady. Reyes, can I talk back? Not from the berm, Master Chief. He's on the hard line, it's one way. Then he can't hear me. He can't hear you. Walker put his face down in the dirt. 60 seconds, the voice said. 1, the man who sent that girl to you is not me. 2, he knew I would come. He counted on it. 3, Danny, he wanted her on your range tonight in front of your team with a score sheet, because a score sheet is a document and a document is a lever, and he has been building a lever for 6 years. Tanner said, what is he talking about? 4, the voice said. The reason my file is black is not because of what happened to me. It's because of what happened to the mission. Danny, you didn't lose me. You were told you lost me. Those are 2 different sentences, and you have been reading the wrong one every single night for 6 years. Walker's hands closed on the dirt. 5, the voice said. Emily. Emily did not move. Emily, honey, if you're on that glass, and I know you are because you're mine, I want you to hear me say this one time. Your wind call at 10 o'clock tonight was right. 4 left to right off the slope. I watched you take it. I've been on that ridge since 1600. Kessler said softly, he's been watching the whole evaluation. Boone said he watched her shoot. He watched her shoot, Kessler said, and he didn't come down until she was done. 2224. 6, the voice said. Danny, there are 4 other men out here tonight, and they are not with me. The net came alive like a hive. 4, Master Chief. Reyes sensors. I've got nothing. Northeast is clean. I'm showing one body only. I've got no other. Then your sensors are lying, Kessler said. Master Chief, my sensors don't. Reyes, Emily said, who reactivated the badge? Everything stopped again. What? You said nobody can reactivate a dead man's badge. Somebody did. It's a work order. Somebody signed it. Who signed it? A long pause. Reyes said, stand by. Reyes. Stand by, kid. Keys, clicking, breathing. And then Reyes said in a voice that had gone completely flat, Master Chief, the reactivation order came through at 14:22 this afternoon. It's authenticated. It's got a signature block. Whose? Yours. 2225. Nobody spoke. Tanner said, that's a lie. It's on the screen, Chief. That's a lie, Reyes. It's got his CAC, it's got his PIN, it's got a timestamp of 1422, and Master Chief at 1422, you were in the chow hall with all of us because I brought you a plate. Boone said slowly. So somebody's got his credentials. Somebody's got his credentials, Kessler said. And somebody wanted a record that says Daniel Walker personally brought Michael Carter's identity back to life on Christmas Eve. And Emily said, there it is. Walker said, there what is? That's the lever, she said. That's what he meant. 6 years he's been building it, and tonight he said it. Look at what exists now. A signed order in your name. A dead Army captain walking onto a Navy facility. A minor on your range with a black file and a score sheet that says she outshot your entire team. Master Chief, if somebody wanted a story that says Daniel Walker has been running an off-books program and training a child to shoot people, what would they need? Nobody answered. They'd need exactly what's in this valley right now, Emily said. Boone said, oh my God, 2227. 7, the voice said, still calm, still rolling out over the whole facility. Danny, they're not here to kill you. They're here to make a picture. They need one of two things. They need me dead on your range, or they need her dead on your range. Either one writes the story for them. They don't care which. Emily's breathing hitched once. 8, the voice said. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to leave me right here in the middle of this road with my hands up, because as long as I'm standing here in the open with a white flag on my barrel, nobody can shoot me without it being on your cameras. That's why I walked in the front. Danny, I didn't come in the front because I'm brave. I came in the front because it's the only place in this valley where I'm worth more alive. Kessler said, that is the smartest thing I have ever heard. Tanner said, or it's the best acting you've ever heard. 9, the voice said, Danny, get the girl off that berm. Walker lifted his head. Get her off the berm right now. She's silhouetted from the southwest, and there's a man on the water tower. 2228, everything happened in 3 seconds. Kessler said, water tower southwest, that's. Boone said, that's 450 from her position. Walker said, Emily down. And Emily Carter, who had been on that berm for 18 minutes with her crosshair on her own father's chest, did not go down. She rolled left 11 inches and came up on the glass, and Walker heard her exhale, and he heard the shot. Her shot, 1 round. The speakers didn't call it. There was no target. There was just the flat crack going out across the desert, and then a sound from the southwest 450 meters away that was not a sound anybody wanted to think about. And then something came off the water tower and hit the ground. Silence. Boone said, did she? Kessler said, she just. Reyes said, Master Chief, I've got a body at the base of the southwest tower. He is not moving. Nobody said anything for 4 full seconds. Then Tanner said in a voice that had absolutely nothing left in it, she fired on a call from a voice on a loudspeaker. She fired on the word of a man she hasn't seen in 6 years. And Emily said, working her bolt cheek still down, I fired because there was a man on the water tower. You couldn't see him. I saw him at 2211 when the lights came back on, she said. I've had him for 17 minutes. I didn't shoot him because he wasn't doing anything. Boone said, you've had a man in your glass for 17 minutes and you didn't say anything. I said it, Emily said. I said in about 90 seconds you're going to want somebody on that north berm who can shoot in the dark. Chief Tanner told me to watch my mouth. Nobody said one word. 2229. 10, the voice on the speaker said, and for the first time it was not calm. For the first time it had something in it. That's my girl. Emily made a sound. It was small. It was the kind of sound that gets out of a person when a door they have been leaning on for 6 years finally opens and they fall through it. Master Chief, Kessler said quietly, she's crying. I'm not crying, Emily said, kid. I'm not crying, I'm on the glass. Walker crawled to her. He got up next to her and put his hand flat on her back between her shoulder blades, and she was shaking so hard it was coming up through the rifle, and she was still somehow on target. Emily, don't. Emily, look at me. If I look at you, she said, I lose him. And Walker understood then in a way that opened him like a can that this child had not moved her eye off that glass in 19 minutes because the second she did, her father would go back to being a rumor. Okay, he said. Okay, stay on him. Okay, I've got you. You don't have me, Emily said, and her voice was wrecked. You had him in a room, 4 in the morning, with bad data, and you left. Walker's hand did not move off her back. Yes, he said, I did. 2231. Boone said on the net, Master Chief, we have a problem. Go. There's a vehicle at the north gate. Whose? It's a government plate. Reyes said, it scanned clean. Reyes, everything scans clean tonight. Master Chief, I'm telling you what the screen says. It's a legitimate credential. It's current. It's a federal interagency badge. And it's what? Reyes's voice went very quiet. It's the same office that redacted her file. 2232. Tanner said, how do you know that? Because I filed her paperwork this morning, and Reyes said, and I had to route it through an office code, and the office code on that badge is the same office code. And Master Chief, I want to say something, and I want it on the net, so 12 people hear me say it. Say it. I have worked this range for 11 years, Reyes said. In 11 years, I have never once had a redaction come from that office. Never. They don't do range work. They don't do evaluations. They don't do minors. A pause. Master Chief, when that packet came across my desk at 0640 this morning, I almost called somebody. And I didn't, because it was Christmas Eve, and I wanted to go home, and I told myself somebody smarter than me had signed off. Kessler said, Reyes, somebody put a 17-year-old girl on my range, and I processed it like a work order. Nobody said anything. Then Emily said, Reyes, yeah, kid. You told me not to try to be tough. You gave me water. You sat on a cold step with me for 20 minutes on Christmas Eve when you didn't have to. She kept her eye on the glass. You're the only person on this base who's been decent to me all night. So stop it. Reyes did not answer. 2233. Vehicle's moving, Boone said. It's coming down the access road. How fast? Slow, Master Chief. It's got its dome light on. It's what? Its interior light. It's on. He's driving down a blacked-out range road with his interior light on so we can see his hands. Kessler said, that's not a threat move. No, Walker said. That's a lawyer move. 2234. The vehicle stopped 100 meters short of the man standing in the road with his hands up. The door opened. A man got out. He was wearing a top coat over a suit in the desert on Christmas Eve at 2234 hours. And he did not carry anything, and he did not hurry, and he stood in the road with his own headlights behind him so that everybody on that range could see exactly one thing about him, which was that he was not afraid. Boone said, who wears a top coat? Kessler said, somebody who came from a building. And then the man raised one hand and waved in a friendly way at 400 meters of desert containing 12 Navy SEALs and a 17-year-old girl. Master Chief, Boone said, he's waving. I see him. He's waving at us. I see him, Boone. And the man in the top coat took something out of his pocket and lifted it to his mouth, and every speaker on that facility popped again. Master Chief Walker, he said, and his voice was pleasant. Merry Christmas. My name is Halloran. I signed her orders. 2235. Emily's whole body went rigid. Walker felt it under his hand. Emily. That's him. Emily, is that the voice? That's the voice on the phone. Her breathing had gone shallow and fast. That's the man who called my house. That's the man who said, be kind to Daniel Walker. Kessler said, Master Chief, she's spiking. Get her off the trigger. Emily. He said my father was dead, Emily said, and it was coming out of her in pieces now. He said your father died with honor. Emily and I have arranged an opportunity for you, and my father is standing 400 meters in front of me, alive, and that man is 100 meters behind him. Emily, breathe. He's behind him, Master Chief. I know. He's standing behind my father. Emily, breathe. He's got a clean shot, she said, and it came out of her almost as a whisper. He's got a clean shot at my dad's back, and my dad has his hands up. 2236. Master Chief Walker. Halloran's voice said, warm as a car salesman. I'd like to resolve this quietly. I'm going to be very transparent with you. 6 years ago, Captain Michael Carter was declared missing in the course of a classified operation that you led. That's the record. I'm sure you've read it many times. Walker said nothing. He couldn't. Unfortunately, Halloran said the record's not accurate. He wasn't lost, he was retained. And for 6 years, he has been a considerable inconvenience to a number of people who have been very patient with him. Boone said, retained, did he just say? He said retained, Kessler said. That's not a word. It's a word if you're the one doing it. Master Chief Halloran said, at approximately 21:53, Captain Carter entered this facility using a credential that was reactivated this afternoon under your signature. At approximately 22:28, a miner under your supervision on your range using ammunition, you killed a man from 450 meters. Nobody breathed. That's the story now, Halloran said. That's what exists. I want you to sit with the shape of it for a second because I think you're a smart man and I think you can see it. 2237, Tanner said on the net very quietly. He put that man on the tower. Boone said, what? He put that man on the tower to make her shoot him. Tanner's voice was strange. Master Chief, he needed her to fire. That's why the guy on the tower didn't do anything for 17 minutes. He wasn't there to shoot. He was there to be shot. Kessler said, oh, that is filthy. He was bait, Tanner said. Master Chief, he sacrificed his own man to get a 17-year-old's fingerprints on a homicide. And Emily said, no, he didn't. Everything stopped. What? Tanner said. That man on the tower wasn't his, Emily said. She had gone very quiet, very fast in the way she went quiet before she fired. Master Chief, get somebody to that body. Emily, get somebody to that body right now. 2238. Kessler, Walker said, moving. Boone, cover him. Moving. Halloran's voice pleasant rolling across the desert. Master Chief, there's no need to send anybody anywhere. I'm sure we can be reasonable. I'd like to make you an offer, and I'd like the girl to hear it because, frankly, the offer is mostly for her. Emily said, don't listen to him. Emily Carter. Halloran said, you're 17. In 11 months, you'll be an adult, and everything that happened tonight will belong to you legally in a way it doesn't right now. That's a window. I'd like to use it. Don't listen to him, Emily said again, and now she was pleading. And Walker had not heard her plead once, not when they laughed at her, not when he lied to her face. Master Chief, don't listen to him. Here's my offer, Halloran said. Your father walks off this range tonight, alive, free. He goes home with you, Christmas morning, Montana, the whole thing. Nobody follows him, nobody knocks on that door ever again. Emily made a sound. In exchange, Halloran said, you sign what I put in front of you. That's all. You sign a piece of paper that says Master Chief Daniel Walker has been training you privately for 6 years, and that tonight was his idea. 2239. The net was silent. Boone said, Master Chief. Walker didn't answer. Master Chief. I heard it. He's asking a kid to trade you for her father. I heard it, Boone. Kessler's voice came in breathing, hard moving. Master Chief, I'm 40 meters from the body. Talk to me. Stand by fire. Halloran warned Emily, I want you to understand that I'm not asking you to lie about a good man. I'm asking you to tell the truth about a man who left your father in a building at 4 a.m. and then went home and got promoted twice. Emily's hands were shaking so hard the reticle was moving. Emily, Walker said, shut up. Emily, listen to me. Shut up. It tore out of her. 6 years. 6 years I've had a folder with a black rectangle where my father is supposed to be, and you have been eating dinner and getting promoted, and you looked me in the face tonight and said the name meant nothing to you, and now this man is telling me I can have him back. I can have my dad back. All I have to do is tell the truth about you and Master Chief. The truth is bad. Nobody said a word. The truth is bad, she said, and her voice went to pieces. You did leave him. Walker said, yes. Say it to me. I left him. Say his name. I left Michael Carter in a building at 0400 with bad data, and I told myself for 6 years that the data was somebody else's fault. Walker's voice was perfectly steady and completely destroyed. Sign the paper, Emily. 2240. Boone said, Master Chief, no. Sign it, Walker said. Master Chief. Boone, shut your mouth. Walker did not raise his voice. She's 17. That's her father standing in a road. There is not one man on this net who wouldn't sign it, and every one of you knows it. Tanner said, I wouldn't. You would. Master Chief, I wouldn't. Tanner, you have got a daughter. Silence. Yeah, Tanner said. I'd sign it. 2241. And then Kessler's voice came over the net, and it was wrong, and everybody heard that it was wrong. Master Chief? Go. I'm at the body. And a pause. Master Chief, this man is 55, 60 years old. Boone said, what? He's an old man. He's wearing a coat with a name tape on it. He's got a rifle that's Master Chief. This rifle is not a weapon. This is a spotting scope on a tripod. There's no rifle up here. There's no rifle at all. The world went out from under 12 people at the same time. Boone said, she shot an unarmed man. Kessler, Walker said, Kessler, say the name on the tape. A pause. I'm turning him. Stand by. Kessler. Master Chief, Kessler said, and his voice cracked. The name on the tape is Carter, 2242. Emily did not move. Emily did not make a sound. Boone said, that's not. Tanner said, what? Carter, Kessler said. It's on his chest. It's stenciled. Master Chief, this man is wearing Michael Carter's jacket. And Halloran's voice came across every speaker on that facility. Still pleasant, still warm, still exactly as calm as a man reading a weather report. Yes, he said. I thought that might get everyone's attention. 2243. You see, Emily, Halloran said, 20 minutes ago you shot a man wearing your father's name. Emily's rifle came off the berm. Emily, no, Walker said, and he grabbed for her, and she was already up on one knee, and every man on that net heard him grabbing. He's not my father, she said. Emily, he's not my father. He's standing in the road. Emily, look at me. They put his name on a man and made me shoot him. Emily. And the voice from the road, the tired one, the old one, the one that had told a little girl about cable junctions while making pancakes, came across the speakers over the top of all of it, and it was not calm anymore. Honey, don't look at him. Everything stopped. Don't look at the body, Michael Carter said. Emily, listen to my voice. Don't look at the body. Don't listen to that man. Look at me. Look at me, baby. You put your eye back on the glass and you look at me. I'm right here, and I am not on the ground. I am standing up. Do you hear me? I'm standing up. Emily was on her knees in the dirt, shaking. Put your eye on the glass, her father said. She put her eye on the glass. There she is, he said. 2244. Now, Michael Carter said, listen to me very carefully, because Halloran is about to tell you that you can't trust anything you've seen tonight, and he's right, and he wants that. He wants you to stop trusting your own eyes, because that's the only weapon you've got that he can't take. Halloran's voice, Captain, that's enough. He's going to tell you that man on the tower proves you're dangerous. Captain, he's going to tell you he'll make it go away. Captain, and Michael Carter said, Emily, that man on the tower was named Roy Delacroix, and he was my spotter for 11 years, and he has been looking for me for 6 of them. And Halloran found him first, and Halloran put my jacket on him, and Halloran put him on that tower at 450 meters from my daughter's cold bore line. Nobody breathed. He didn't put him there to shoot you, Michael Carter said. He put him there because Roy was the last living man who could identify me, and he needed him gone in a way that couldn't be traced to a building in Virginia. Kessler said on the net in a whisper, he used her as the weapon. He used her as the weapon, Boone said. 2245. And then across 400 meters of freezing desert, the man in the top coat began to clap. Slowly, pleasantly, 3 times. Well, Halloran said, that was a lot. He raised the mic again. Master Chief Walker, I'll be brief because it's late and it's cold and I'd like to be somewhere warm. In about 90 seconds, a helicopter is going to come over that eastern ridge. It's mine. On board, there are people who are going to take Captain Carter into custody, take the girl into protective custody as an unaccompanied minor involved in a shooting, and take you, Master Chief, into a conversation room where you're going to have a very long night. Boone said, Master Chief. Unless, Halloran said. Walker closed his eyes. Unless you do nothing, Halloran said. That's all. That's the whole ask. Don't shoot me. Don't stop me. Don't file anything. Just do what you did 6 years ago at 4 a.m. Silence. Just leave him, Halloran said. 2246. and Master Chief Daniel Walker, 51 years old, lying on a berm in the Nevada desert on Christmas Eve, with his hand on the back of a 17-year-old girl keyed his net. Reyes, go Master Chief. Are we recording? A pause, then Reyes, and there was something in his voice that had not been there all night, said, Master Chief, this is an evaluation range. Every microphone on this facility has been hot since 1900 hours, including the PA hardline. Boone sat straight up in the dirt. Reyes, Walker said, say that in a full sentence. Master Chief Reyes said, that man just confessed to a murder on a Navy range with the record button on, and he doesn't know it because he came in through a gate log and never asked a range officer a single question. 2247. Nobody said a word. Then Tanner, who had spent 4 hours laughing at a child, said very quietly, Master Chief, permission to do something about my mouth. Not yet. Master Chief. Not yet, Chief. Walker's hand was still on Emily's back. Emily. What? Where's your crosshair? And Emily Carter, 17 years old, with her father's name on a dead man 40 meters from her boot, and a helicopter coming over the eastern ridge, put her cheek down on the stock and said in a voice that had gone completely terrifyingly calm, on the top coat, 2248. Emily, Walker said, take it off him. No. Emily, take your crosshair off that man. He put my father's name on Roy Delacroix, she said, and he handed me the rifle. I know what he did. He handed me the rifle, Master Chief. Emily, he knew where my cold bore line was, she said, and her voice had gone somewhere flat and awful. Somewhere Walker had heard grown men go exactly twice in his life and had lost one of them afterward. He knew the station layout. He knew what time you'd run it. He put a man in my father's jacket at 450 meters, and he waited for me to do the only thing I know how to do. Boone said on the net quietly, Master Chief, she's not spiking. She's the calmest person on this hill. That's the problem. I know. That's worse. I know, Boone. 2249. Reyes's voice cut in. Master Chief, that helicopter's real. I've got it on the east feed. 2 minutes, maybe less. How many bodies on board? Can't tell. It's a 9-seat airframe. Kessler, still crouched over Roy Delacroix 40 meters out on the southwest side, said, Master Chief, before that bird lands, you need to make a decision about this body. Say it. If they take him, this jacket disappears. The name tape disappears. In 6 weeks, there's a report that says an unidentified male was shot by an unsupervised minor on a Navy range, and everything else is a rumor, she tells a therapist. Nobody answered that. Then Tanner said, cut it off. Boone said, what? The name tape. Cut it off and put it in your pocket. Kessler said, Chief, that's tampering with a scene. Kessler, in 90 seconds, there isn't going to be a scene. That's not the point. That's exactly the point. Enough, Walker said, and the net went silent. He lay there with his hand flat on the back of a shaking 17-year-old and did the fastest and worst piece of thinking of his life. Kessler! Go. Don't touch him. Master Chief, don't touch him. Photograph him. A pause. Say again. You got a phone in your pocket. Kessler, you've had it all night. You're not supposed to, and I've known for 4 years. Photograph the tape. Photograph the face. Photograph his hands and his boots and the tripod and the ground around him. Timestamp wide, close wide. Then you put that phone back in your pocket and you do not touch that man, because the second you cut that tape off him, you become the guy who altered evidence. And that's the story they're already writing. Silence. Then Kessler said, Master Chief, that's the smartest thing anybody's said in 6 years. Just take the pictures. Taking them. 2250. Halloran's voice rolled out across the facility again, pleasant as a man ordering breakfast. Master Chief, I'm watching a man crouch over that body with a phone in his hand, and I'd just like to note for everyone's benefit that personal electronics on a classified evaluation range are a felony. Boone said, how's he see that? He's got the tower feeds, Reyes said. Master Chief, he's in my system. He's been in my system since 1422. Kessler keeps shooting. Still shooting. Master Chief, Halloran said, I'd like to move this along, 90 seconds. And then Michael Carter, standing in the middle of the road with his hand still up, said one word into his hand mic. Danny. Walker's whole body reacted before his brain did. Danny asked him why he's still standing here. Halloran said, Captain, ask him why a man with a helicopter and a system and a story is standing in a road at 400 meters instead of sitting in a building in Virginia, watching it happen on a screen. Captain, that's enough. Ask him what he needs from this range that he can't get anywhere else. 2251. Walker keyed the range officer's channel. Reyes, can I get on the PA? Master Chief, it's one way from the junction. He's got them all. Reyes, can I get on the PA? A pause, keys clattering. Master Chief, Reyes said slowly, the junction gives him the towers. It does not give him the Tower 1 horn. That one's fed off the control hut. It's a separate run because we rebuilt it in 22. So I've got one speaker. You've got one speaker, and it's 40 feet from where Carter's standing. Walker said, patch me. Patching. 2252. And Master Chief Daniel Walker's voice went out across 400 meters of freezing Nevada desert for the first time that night. Halloran. The man in the topcoat did not move. Halloran, this is Walker. Turn around. He turned around. You've got a 9-seat helicopter and a federal badge and my signature on a work order, Walker said. You could have done this from a chair. So my captain wants me to ask you a question, and I'm going to ask it because in 9 years, I've never once been wrong to do what that man told me, and I've been wrong exactly once when I didn't. Emily's breathing hitched under his hand. What do you need from this range? Walker said. Silence. 400 meters of it. Then Halloran raised his mic and said, and for the first time his voice had a little edge sanded off it, Master Chief, I don't think you understand your position. That's not an answer. I don't owe you. What do you need from this range? And Emily Carter's cheek down on the stock eye on the topcoat said quietly, he needs a witness. 2253. Walker turned his head. What? He needs a witness, she said. He can't just kill my father. He's had him for 6 years and he didn't kill him. Why Emily? Why Master Chief 6 years? If you can hold a man for 6 years, you can put him in a hole. So why is my dad alive? Boone said on the net, because he's got something. Because he's got something, Emily said. Because Michael Carter knows something that dies with him, and Halloran needs it, and he can't get it out of him, and it's been 6 years. Kessler's voice out on the southwest side. Master Chief, that's it. That's why he's standing in the road. He's not here to catch him. He's here to make a deal with him, and he needs leverage he doesn't have. And tonight, Emily said, for the first time in 6 years, his leverage is standing on a berm at 480 meters. Nobody said anything. It's me, she said. I'm the leverage. That's the whole night. That's the black file and the bus ticket and the phone call and my age and Christmas Eve. I'm not the payload chief Tanner. I'm the pry bar. Tanner very quietly said, God Almighty. 2254. And Halloran's voice came back and it was warm again. And that was the worst thing about it. That's a bright girl, Captain, he said. You must be proud. Michael Carter did not answer. She's right, of course, Halloran said. Master Chief, since we're all being candid at 10:54 at night, I'll be candid. Captain Carter has been in a room for 6 years. He's been offered every reasonable thing a man can be offered. He's been offered his life, his name, his back pay, his pension. He turned down all of it every time with a politeness I found genuinely impressive. A pause. But he was never offered his daughter. Emily's rifle did not move. Not a millimeter. Walker felt her go from shaking to absolutely still under his hand, and it terrified him more than anything else on that range. So this afternoon, Halloran said, I let him go. Boone said, what? I opened the door, Halloran said. I gave him a badge with his own name on it, and I told him where his daughter was going to be tonight, and I let him walk out of a building and drive 4 hours to stand in this road because Master Chief, in 6 years, I could not make that man say one word he didn't want to say. But I knew with absolute certainty that if I told him his 17-year-old was going to be on a live range with your team, he would come. And a man who comes is a man who wants something. And a man who wants something can be traded with. 2255. The net was dead. Then Reyes said in a voice like he'd swallowed glass, he engineered the whole night to find out what the man loved. He engineered the whole night, Kessler said, to find the price. And Michael Carter's voice came up on the speakers, and it was not tired anymore. Emily, he said. Dad. It was the first time she had said it out loud all night. And it came out of a 17-year-old, not a shooter, and Walker heard 11 grown men on an open net hear it, and not one of them made a sound. Emily, I need you to hear something, and I need you to not argue with me. Dad. He's right. He found it. He found the price in about 4 seconds, and he's been walking me toward this road since 2 o'clock this afternoon, and I came anyway because I've had 6 years to think about what I'd do if there was ever one chance to see you. And it turns out the answer is I'd do anything, and he knew it, and I knew he knew it, and I came anyway. Dad, don't. I'm going to take his deal. Dad. Emily, listen. No. 2256. Master Chief, Boone said urgently. Helicopters coming over the ridge. I've got rotors. Emily, Michael Carter said fast now. There's a thing in my head that 4 governments would like, and it is the only reason I've had a pulse for 6 years, and he wants it, and if I give it to him, he'll let you go. That's the trade. That's the whole trade. And I want you to understand, he won't let me go. Emily, he won't let me go. She was screaming into the wind with her eyes still on the glass, and Walker had never in his life seen anything hold a rifle that steady while coming apart that completely. Dad, he made me shoot Roy. He put your name on him. He made me shoot the last man alive who could prove who you are, and you think he's going to let me go? He's not trading with you. He's showing you. He's showing you what he can make me do. Silence. He's showing you, she said, that if you don't give it to him, the next name he puts on a jacket will be one you can't watch me shoot. 2257. Michael Carter did not say anything for 4 full seconds. Then he said very quietly, Danny. Yeah, Mike. She's better than both of us. Walker put his face in the dirt for 1 second. Yeah, he said. She is. 2258. Rotors, Boone said. Master Chief, I've got him coming down the valley. 60 seconds. Master Chief, we have to do something in the next 60 seconds, or we don't do anything ever. Tanner said, Master Chief, give me a word. 1 word. I'll take him. Nobody's taking anybody. Master Chief, 400 meters top coat. I'm on him right now. Tanner, he is going to walk away. And you're going to prison, Chief, and so is she. Walker's voice broke across the net like a board. Look at what he's built. He wants a shot. He wants one of us to fire on a federal officer in a road with his hands empty, on a range with the record button on Tanner. That's the whole thing. That's why he's standing there. He's not brave. He's bait. Nobody breathed. Kessler said softly, Master Chief's right. He walked out in front of his own headlights so we could see he was unarmed. He's been standing in the open for 4 minutes. He's not hiding from us. He's posing for us, Walker said. 2259. Reyes. Go. Where's that recording live? Local array, HUT server. Can he wipe it? A pause. Master Chief, Reyes said. He's had admin since 1422. He can wipe it from the road. Then why hasn't he? Silence. Reyes, why hasn't he wiped it? And Reyes said slowly, because he wants it. Boone said he wants the recording. He wants the recording, Reyes said. He wants a Navy Range's own audit file that says a minor shot an unarmed man at 450 meters at 22:28 on a range run by Master Chief Daniel Walker. Master Chief, he's not going to delete it. He's going to CITE it. 2259 and 30 seconds. And Emily Carter said, Reyes, yeah, kid. You said every microphone on the facility has been hot since 1900. That's right. Everyone, including the ones on the towers. A pause. Yeah, including the Southwest Tower. Total complete silence on that net. Then Kessler, 40 meters from a dead man, said in a voice that had gone very thin, Reyes, there's a microphone on this tower. There's a microphone on every tower. It's how we call impacts on the far stations. Reyes. Kessler was almost shouting. Was it hot at 2100? It's been hot since 1900. Boone said, oh my God. Master Chief, Kessler said, and Walker could hear him running now. Master Chief Roy Delacroix has been on this tower since before the evaluation started. He's got a spotting scope, and a coat and a thermos, and he's been sitting 40 feet from a live microphone for 3 hours, 2,259 and 50 seconds. Reyes, Walker said, I'm pulling it. Reyes, I'm pulling it, Master Chief. Rotors came over the ridge, 2,300 hours. The helicopter came down the valley with no lights and put itself on the road 200 meters behind Halloran's vehicle, and the noise of it went across the range like a hand over a mouth. Halloran's voice on the PA calm, Master Chief, that's my ride. I'd like everybody to stay exactly where they are. Captain Carter, walk toward me, please. Michael Carter did not move. Captain? Danny, Michael Carter said, how's your daughter? Walker's head came up. What? Sarah, Michael Carter said. She'd be, 26 now. Mike, what are you on? Danny, say her name. Boone said, Master Chief, what is he? And Walker understood, and it went through him like a bullet, and he keyed the tower, one horn, and said out loud across 400 meters in front of 11 of his men and a 17-year-old girl and a man in a top coat and a helicopter. Sarah, 2,301. There it is, Michael Carter said. Halloran said, Captain, walk toward me. He says it before every coal bore, Michael Carter said, ignoring him completely, talking to the whole desert. Everyone, 11 years at least. He said it in Kandahar in a ditch. He said it on a rooftop in a city I won't name. And Emily Honey, he said it 30 minutes ago on the 900 before he took his shot. And I heard it because I've been on that ridge since 1600 with a parabolic and a set of headphones. Emily said, why are you telling me this? Because in about 90 seconds, you're going to be told that Daniel Walker is a coward who left me in a building, Michael Carter said, and I need you to know what he was doing at 4 a.m. Halloran said, Captain. He was saying his daughter's name. Michael Carter said, over a radio to me because it was the only way he had left to tell me he wasn't coming and that he knew what it meant and that he'd carry it. Danny didn't leave me because he had bad data, Emily. He left me because I told him to. 2,302, Walker made a sound in the dirt. Mike, he said, Mike, don't. 6 years, Danny. Mike, 6 years you've been eating it. That's long enough. And Mo at 0351, your father's element was compromised, and there were 9 men in a stairwell, and one of them was going to have to stay. And I was the one who spoke Pashto. And I told him, I said, Danny, take the 8, and he said no. And I said, Danny, take the 8, and he said no. And then I turned my radio off. Silence. That's what he's been carrying, Michael Carter said. He's been carrying a decision that wasn't his. 2,303. Emily said very quietly, Master Chief. Walker couldn't answer. Master Chief, is that true? He couldn't answer. Danny, Michael Carter said, tell my kid. And Walker, 51 years old, face in the frozen dirt of his own range, said, I stood in that stairwell for 4 minutes after he cut me off. 4 minutes. And then I took the 8 men and I walked out, and I have never once in 6 years been able to explain to anybody why I didn't stay. And the reason is that there isn't one. He told me to go and I went. That's all it is. That's the whole thing. I went because he told me to and because I wanted to live. And you can't say the second part out loud, so I never said any of it. Nobody on that net moved. Then Boone said, Master Chief, we didn't know. Nobody knew. You never said, Boone, what was I supposed to say? Walker's voice cracked wide open. That a better man than me ordered me to save myself, and I obeyed. That I'm alive because he was faster than me at deciding you want me to put that in a debrief. You want me to say that at a promotion board, Kessler said quietly. Master Chief, that's a Medal of Honor citation for him and a clean conscience for you, and you sat on it for 6 years because you couldn't stand the shape of it. Yes, Walker said, 2,304. Halloran's voice came on, and this time it was not pleasant. That's a lovely story, he said. It's also classified at a level that means every man on that berm has just committed a felony by listening to it. Master Chief, the helicopter is warm. Captain Carter, walk. Now, or I put people on that berm and take the girl. And Reyes said on the net, Master Chief? Walker said, not now, Reyes. Master Chief, I've got it. Everything stopped. Say that again. I've got the tower feed, Reyes said, and he was breathing like a man who had run upstairs. Southwest Tower, 2117 hours. Master Chief, there's 40 minutes of audio on it, and there's two voices. Boone said, two. Who's Vom? And Reyes said, one of them is Roy Delacroix, and the other one is the man standing in the road wearing a topcoat. 2305. Kessler said out loud, 40 meters from the body, he was up there with him. He was up there with him at 2117, Reyes said. Master Chief, he climbed that tower an hour before Carter badged in, and he sat with that old man, and he talked to him, and the tower mic ate every word of it. Play it, Walker said. Master Chief. Reyes, play it. I can't play it to you, Reyes said, but I can play it to everybody. Silence. Master Chief, Reyes said. I've got the hut. He's got admin, but he doesn't have my hands. I can put it on the PA. 2306. Walker looked at 400 meters of desert with a man in a topcoat standing in it and a helicopter turning behind him. Do it, he said, and every speaker on that facility came alive at once. And out of them came an old man's voice, tired and gravelly and kind, saying, Son, I've been sitting on a water tower in December for 2 hours. This had better be good. And Halloran's voice, warm as a Christmas card, saying, Mr. Delacroix, thank you for coming. Halloran in the road at 400 meters stopped moving. You said you had news about Mike, Roy Delacroix's voice said. I do. Is he alive? He is. A long pause on the tape. Then the old man's voice absolutely wrecked. 6 years. 6 years I've been writing letters. Nobody would tell me one thing. Where is he? And Halloran's voice said, he'll be here in about 40 minutes. 2307. Boone said, oh no. Here, Roy's voice said, on this range. On this range. Why so? Because his daughter's shooting tonight. A pause. Emmy, Roy said. Little Emmy Carter's down there. And Halloran's voice said, she is. And Roy Delacroix said, well, hell, son, I taught that girl to read wind when she was 8 years old. Emily made a sound on the berm that Walker would hear for the rest of his life. 2308. Reyes, kill it, Walker said. Master Chief. Kill it, she can't. No, Emily said. Everything stopped. Play it, she said. Emily, play it. And the tape kept going and Halloran's voice said, Mr. Delacroix, I want to ask you for a favor. It's cold up here. Would you put this on? And Roy said, what is it? It's Mike's jacket. A pause. Why do you have Mike's jacket? Because I've had Mike for 6 years. Silence on the tape. Long silence. And then the old man's voice, and it had changed. It had gone hard and old and dangerous. Who are you? Put the jacket on, Mr. Delacroix. Son, I asked you a question. Roy, it's 22 degrees. Put the jacket on. 2309. And then on the tape, Roy Delacroix said the thing that broke that entire range open. He said, you want her to see me in it. Nobody breathed. You want that little girl to look through her glass and see her daddy's name on a man on a tower. Halloran's voice still warm. Mr. Delacroix, that's what this is. The old man's voice was rising. That's why I'm up here. You didn't bring me here to see Mike. You brought me here to be a picture. Roy, how do you even know she'll shoot? And Halloran's voice on the tape on every speaker in that facility said, because she's Michael Carter's daughter, and she's been trained by a ghost, and she will not be able to help herself. 2310. The helicopter's rotors were the only sound in the world. Then on the tape, Roy Delacroix started laughing. It was not a good laugh. It was the laugh of a man who has just understood everything at once at 60 years old on top of a water tower in the dark. Son, he said, you don't know that girl at all. I know her scores. You know her scores. Roy was laughing harder. Oh, that's rich. Oh, that's just, son, that girl has had a rifle in her hands since she was 6 years old, and you know what her daddy taught her first? Not wind, not dope. He taught her that you don't shoot a man you haven't identified. That was the first thing. That was before she could ride a bicycle. A pause, and then Halloran said on the tape, Mr. Delacroix, put on the jacket or I'll have somebody put it on you. 2311. And Roy Delacroix said no. Silence. No, the old man said again. I'll sit on this tower all night in my shirt sleeves and freeze to death first. You want her to shoot me, son? You want her carrying that for 60 years? You go find another old man. And then there was a sound on the tape. It was a short sound, It was cloth and a grunt and something metal going over. And then there was nothing for 11 seconds. And then Halloran's voice, breathing a little harder, perfectly pleasant, said, "Thank you, Mr. Delacroix." 2312, Kessler said from 40 meters away, in a voice nobody had ever heard out of Kessler, "Master Chief, go." "Master Chief, this man's got bruising on both wrists." Silence. "Master Chief, this jacket's buttoned wrong." Boone said, "What?" "It's buttoned wrong." Kessler was shouting now. And Kessler did not shout. Kessler had not raised his voice in 9 years. "Master Chief, this old man did not dress himself. Somebody put this jacket on a man who was fighting him." 2313. And Emily Carter said in a voice as quiet as snow, "Reyes, is the tape still running?" "It's still running, kid." "How much is left?" 4 minutes. "Play all of it." And out of every speaker on that facility, an old man's voice said, "You can put a jacket on me. You can't make her pull." And Halloran's voice said, "She's already pulled once tonight. 6 times. I watched the scoreboard." And Roy said, "At paper." "At paper's a start. Son, listen to me." The old man's voice was different now, slower, and everyone on that range understood at the same time that Roy Delacroix knew exactly what was going to happen to him. "You've got this all backwards. You think you're building a trap. You're not. You're building a witness." Halloran said, "Meaning?" And Roy Delacroix said, "Meaning I've been a spotter for 34 years, and there is one thing a spotter knows that nobody else knows. The shooter doesn't remember the shot. The shooter remembers what you said to him before it." Silence. "So go on," Roy said. "Put me on your tower, but you'd best pray that little girl never finds out what I set up here." 2314. And then on the tape, Roy Delacroix started talking, and he was not talking to Halloran anymore. "Emmy," he said. Emily's rifle came down out of her shoulder. "Emmy, if you ever hear this, it's Uncle Roy." Boone said on the net, "Master Chief, she's..." "I know." "Master Chief, she's on the ground." "I know, Boone." "Emmy," the old man's voice said 60 feet in the air 3 hours earlier, 40 minutes before a bullet. "I don't know how this works out, but if you're hearing this, then something went sideways, and I want you to know a couple things, and then I'll shut up. Your daddy's alive. He's been alive the whole time, and he never quit on you, not one day. Second thing," a pause, "whatever happens up here tonight, it is not your fault. You hear me, not 1 ounce of it." Emily was on her hands and knees in the dirt with her hands over her ears. "You couldn't have known," Roy Delacroix said. "Nobody could have known. And if it was you that did it, well," the old man laughed softly, "then at least it was somebody I taught." 2315. The tape ran out. The speakers hissed. And there was no sound on that entire facility except a helicopter idling and a 17-year-old girl making a noise into the frozen ground that 11 Navy SEALs would carry to their graves. Then Master Chief Daniel Walker stood up. He stood all the way up on a berm silhouetted in the open 480 meters from a man in a topcoat, and he keyed the tower 1 horn. "Halloran." Halloran did not move. "Halloran." Nothing. "You just confessed to murder on a Navy range," Walker said, "and it went out on every speaker in this valley." And Halloran, look around. Look at the towers. Every one of them is a microphone. You've been talking on a hard line that feeds an audit server since 2234, and you never asked. You never asked one range officer one question because you're a man from a building and you thought this was a place and not a system. Silence. "You're standing in my house," Walker said, "and my house takes notes." 2316, Halloran raised his mic. "Master Chief," he said, and his voice was still perfectly calm, and that was when Walker's stomach dropped, because a man who is still calm at 2316 has something you haven't thought of. "I'd like to ask you a question." "Ask it." "Where do you think that audit server sends its files?" Nobody said anything. "Reyes," Walker said. Silence on the net. "Reyes." "Master Chief," Reyes said, and his voice was gone, completely gone. "It mirrors nightly, 2300. To where silence. Reyes, to where?" And Reyes said, "To an office in Virginia, 2317. "Thank you," Halloran said pleasantly. "It went out 16 minutes ago. Everything on this range tonight, including Mr. Delacroix's very moving speech, is now sitting on a server in a building where I have the only key. Master Chief, you didn't record me. You filed me." Boone said no. So, Halloran said. Captain Carter walked toward the helicopter. Master Chief, sit down. Emily, you have about 40 seconds to decide whether you'd like a father or a grudge. And then Michael Carter, standing in the middle of the row with his hands up, said, Danny, what time is it? Walker said, What? What time is it? It's 23:17. And Michael Carter said, Then he's 4 minutes late. 2318. Halloran turned around. Captain. Danny, Michael Carter said, I didn't drive 4 hours to stand in a road. Mike. I've been on that ridge since 1600, Michael Carter said. 7 hours. Danny, what does a man do on a ridge for 7 hours? And Reyes screamed, Master Chief, the mirror didn't go. Everything stopped. Say it again, Walker said. The mirror didn't go. Reyes was laughing, actually laughing a high-cracked, terrible sound. Master Chief, the 2300 mirror failed. It's throwing an error. It's throwing a hardware error. The uplink's dead. Master Chief, somebody cut the uplink cable, and the uplink cable runs underground from the hut to the East Ridge. Michael Carter's voice tired calm on every speaker in the valley. At 1640 on the East Ridge with a folding shovel. 2319. Halloran turned all the way around in the road, and for the first time that night, 400 meters away, in the glare of his own headlights, everybody on that berm watched a man in a topcoat lose his shape. Danny, Michael Carter said, nothing left this valley tonight. Not one bite. It's all still here, in his hut, in Reyes's hands. Boone was on his feet screaming, Reyes! I've got it, Reyes shouted. It's local. It's all local. It's sitting right here. Then get it off this base, Walker said. Master Chief, there's no uplink. Then use your phone, Reyes. 2320, silence. Then Reyes said very slowly, Master Chief, personal electronics on a classified evaluation range are a felony. And Walker said, yeah, so's murder. Pick one. 2321. And that was when the helicopter's engine changed pitch, and 4 men came out of it at a run, and Halloran raised his mic and said, no longer pleasant, no longer warm, no longer anything at all. Take the girl. 2321 in 10 seconds. Nobody moves, Walker said. Master Chief, they're running. Nobody moves. Boone said, Master Chief, 4 bodies off that bird. They're coming up the road at a jog. They'll be on this berm in 90 seconds. Boone, do you have a target? I have 4. Do you have a threat? Silence. Boone. They're not carrying, Kessler said from the southwest. Master Chief, I've got glass on them. 4 men, no long guns, no plates. They've got zip ties and a duffel. Tanner said, zip ties. And Tanner said out loud in a voice like something tearing, they didn't bring guns because they don't think we'll fight. 2322. Emily was still on her hands and knees in the dirt, with her hands over her ears and her rifle lying beside her, like something she had dropped on the way out of a burning house. Walker got down on the ground next to her, not over her, next to her on his belly, so his face was 11 inches from hers. Emily. Nothing. Emily Carter. Nothing. Emily, they're coming for you. And she said into the dirt, good. Walker's whole chest went cold. Say that again. I said good. She lifted her head and her face was a ruin and her eyes were perfectly horribly clear. I killed Roy. Emily. I killed Roy Delacroix. He taught me when I was 80 years old, and I put a round through him at 450, and I didn't even hesitate. Master Chief, I didn't hesitate for 1 second. I saw a man on a tower, and her voice went. I did exactly what that man in the top coat said I'd do. He said she won't be able to help herself. He was right. Emily, listen to me. He knew me better than I know me. 2323. Master Chief, 60 seconds. Boone hold. And Walker did the only thing he had left, which was the wrong thing, which was the true thing. Emily, he said, I know exactly what you're feeling right now, and I need you to hear that from me and not from anybody else on this range, because I'm the only one here who's earned the right to say it. She looked at him. 6 years ago, Walker said, I made the decision you just made, fast, clean, correct by every measure that anybody grades you on. And I have been on the floor about it every night since. His voice was shaking and he let it. So I'm not going to tell you it wasn't your fault. That's a lie people say to make themselves feel better about watching you drown. Emily, it was your finger. That's true. That's going to be true forever. She made a small, broken sound. But listen to me, Walker said. Listen, there's a difference between guilt and blame, and it took me 6 years and a 17-year-old to learn it, and I'm going to give it to you for free in the next 40 seconds, because I don't have 41. Master Chief, Boone said, 50 seconds. Guilt is what you carry because you loved him, Walker said. You don't get rid of that. You shouldn't. That's the receipt for loving somebody. But blame is a thing that belongs to a person. It has a name on it, Emily. It has an address. And right now that name is standing in a road in a top coat 400 meters from your rifle, and he has been standing there for 11 minutes waiting for you to eat what belongs to him. Emily stopped breathing. Don't you carry his, Walker said. Don't you dare. 2324. Emily Carter picked up her rifle. Boone said, Master Chief, she's up. 30 seconds, Kessler said. And Emily said, Reyes. Yeah, kid. Her voice had come back. It was wrecked and raw, and it was hers. You said you can't uplink. There's no uplink. The cable's cut. Reyes, the cable to Virginia is cut. What about the cable to the gate? Silence. Reyes said, what? The North Gate scans credentials, Emily said. Shim. It scanned my dad's badge at 2153. It scanned Halloran's at 2231. Reyes, how does a gate scanner authenticate a federal badge? Boone said, oh. Kessler said, oh. It phones somebody, Reyes shouted. It has to phone somebody. It's a separate circuit. It's not on my array at all. So it's got a line out, Emily said. It's got a line out. And you're a range officer with 11 years and a key. Reyes started laughing. 2325. Master Chief, Reyes said, the gate node's got a maintenance shell. It's a garbage little box. It does nothing. It validates a card, and it writes a log, and it sends the log home twice a day. Can you put a file on it? It's a 2 megabyte pipe, Master Chief. It'd take an hour to send the audio. And Kessler said, send the pictures. Everything stopped. Reyes, Kessler said, and he was running. Walker could hear his boots. I've got 41 photographs on this phone. Roy's face, the name tape, the wrists, the buttons, every one of them time-stamped at 2250 on a device that has never touched this network. Reyes, that's 4 megabytes. Boone said, Master Chief, 20 seconds. Reyes, Walker said, can you do it? I need the phone. Kessler, where are you? 200 out and moving. Reyes, where's the gate node? And Reyes said, it's in a box on a pole at the north gate. Silence. Which is 400 meters past a helicopter, Reyes said. 2326. Master Chief, 10 seconds. And Master Chief Daniel Walker stood up on that berm and said the sentence that 11 men would repeat for the rest of their lives. Tanner, go. Do you have a daughter? A pause. Yes, Master Chief. How old? 9, Quo. Chieftain Walker said, there are 4 men coming up my hill with zip ties for a 17-year-old, and I am not going to shoot anybody tonight, and I am also not going to let them have her. So I need you to explain to me how a man does both of those things in the next 4 seconds. And Tanner said, Master Chief, I'm going to go stand in front of them. That's not a plan, Chief. Master Chief, Tanner said, there's 12 of us. 2327. And 12 men stood up on a berm in the Nevada desert. Not tactically, not correctly. They just stood up, all of them, with their rifles slung on their backs and their hands empty, and they walked down the face of that berm in a line and stood across the road shoulder to shoulder in front of a 17-year-old girl. The 4 men from the helicopter stopped. 20 meters. Boone said out loud conversationally, evening. Nobody answered. You fellas lost. The man in front said, step aside. Can't do it. This is a federal. Buddy, Boone said, you're going to want to look at what's behind me before you finish that sentence. The man looked. 12 United States Navy SEALs, hands empty, rifles slung, nobody smiling. Tanner said pleasantly, we're not going to touch you. Then get out of the piston. We're not going to touch you, Tanner said, and we're not going to move. And the whole thing is on 11 cameras, and Chief, I want you to understand something. Every one of us is going to stand right here with our hands down while you put a zip tie on a child. And every one of us is going to look right into the camera while you do it. Silence. Go ahead, Tanner said. We won't stop you. We'll just watch. 2328. Nobody moved. Walker up on the berm, watching four professional men stand 20 meters from 12 professional men in a row, understood the exact thing that was happening, which was that the four men had suddenly been handed a decision that was not in their briefing. The man in front keyed a radio. Sir, we've got a wall. Halloran's voice came back over the PA, not on the radio on the PA, because he wanted the whole valley to hear it. Go through it. And the man in front said into his radio out loud at 20 meters in front of the 12 witnesses, Sir, they're not resisting. Then it should be easy. Sir, they're standing there. Yes, Halloran said. That's what a wall does. 2329. And then Kessler came out of the dark at a dead sprint, running down the outside of the road past the whole thing, and he was 200 meters from the north gate when the man in front of the four turned and saw him and shouted, Hey! And Boone said, Oh, ope! And 12 men shifted all at once, one step to the left, and there was suddenly no lane in that road at all. The four men could not get past, not without touching somebody. Move! The front man shouted. Boone said, You gonna make us, You'll what, Chief? Tanner said. Say it out loud. There's a microphone on every pole in this valley, and my Master Chief says the house takes notes. 2330. Halloran's voice. Take the girl. Sir, I can't get to the girl. Then take Walker. Silence. Sir. Take the Master Chief, Halloran said. He's standing on the berm in the open. He's 51 years old. Take him and the rest of them will follow you to the helicopter to argue about it. And Master Chief Daniel Walker started laughing. It came up out of him from somewhere he had not visited in 6 years, and it went out across 400 meters of desert on Tower 1's horn, and it was the ugliest, happiest sound Emily Carter had ever heard. Halloran, he said, Master Chief, you've never done this. Silence. Sam, you've never done this, Walker said. Not one day of it. You've read it. You've filed it. You've signed the reports, and you've sat in the room where they play the tape. But you have never once in your life stood in a road at night in front of men who mean it, because if you had, you would know that the sentence you just said is the sentence of a man who thinks a SEAL element is 12 individuals. 2331. Come get me, Walker said, and he sat down on the berm in the open and put his hands on his knees. Come on, he said. I'm sitting down. I'm 51. Come take me. Nobody moved. Sir, the man in the road said into his radio, and his voice had changed. Sir, I need to talk to you privately. Do your job. Sir, I'm not. A long pause. And then very clearly on an open radio across a desert. Sir, I was told this was a retrieval of a compromised asset. Nobody said anything about a kid. Boone said quietly, Oh, there it is. 2332. You were told what you needed, Halloran said. Sir, there's a dead man on that tower. Yes. Who shot him? Silence. Sir, who shot him? And Halloran said the girl. And the man in the road said, How old is she? Nobody answered. How old is she? And Emily Carter, 17 years old, standing on a berm behind 12 men who had laughed at her 4 hours earlier, keyed nothing, said nothing, and simply walked down the front of that berm and stood in the road where everybody could see her. Boone said, Kid, no. I'm 17, she said. The four men looked at her. I'm 17, Emily said, and I'm 5'4", and I've been on this range since 1800, and that man on the phone told you I'm a compromised asset. Look at me. Do I look like an asset? 2333. The man in front took off his hat. He did not do it for a reason. He just did it the way a man does when the thing in front of him will not fit in the box he brought. Ma'am, he said, and Emily said, Don't call me ma'am, I'm in high school. Tanner made a sound like he'd been punched. There's an old man on that tower, Emily said, who taught me to read when I was 8, and I killed him 45 minutes ago, because that man in the top coat put my father's jacket on him and put him at 450 meters and told me nothing, and I want you to think very hard about what job you're doing tonight. The man's jaw moved. And then, Emily said, I want you to go back to that helicopter and get in it. Silence. Halloran's voice on the PA sharp for the first time. Take her. And the man in front said, Sir, stand by. 2334. And that was when everything went wrong. Because Reyes screamed on the net, Master Chief, the vehicle. Walker's head came around. Halloran's car was moving. Not toward the gate, not toward the helicopter. It was going down the access road, slow dome light on, toward the man standing in the middle of the road with his hands up. Boone said, "Master Chief, he's got a car and Carter's got nothing." "Mike!" Walker screamed into the horn. "Mike, move!" And Michael Carter did not move. 2335. The car stopped 10 feet from him, and Halloran got out and walked up to him and picked up the rifle off the road, the one with the white cloth tied to the barrel, and stood there holding it. And every speaker in the valley carried what he said next because he was still holding his mic and he had forgotten, or he didn't care, and this was the thing that made Walker's blood stop. He wanted it heard. "Mike," Halloran said. "Ken." Boone said, "Ken, it's all, They know each other," Kessler said, breathing hard, running. "Master Chief, they know each other." "Mike, this was very good," Halloran said. 7 hours on a ridge, a shovel. I'll be honest with you, I didn't think you had it in you anymore. I've had 6 years to think." "Yes." A pause. "You cut my uplink." "I did." "You know that just means I have to do this the other way." And Michael Carter said, "I know." 2336. Emily said, "Master Chief, I see it." "Master Chief, what's the other way?" Walker didn't answer. "Master Chief, what's the other way?" And Kessler, 200 meters from the gate, said the thing nobody wanted said. "If he can't file it," Kessler said, "he has to bury it. And you can't bury a recording, Master Chief, but you can bury people." 2337. "Mike," Halloran said, "walk to the helicopter." "No." "Mike, Ken, I've been in a room for 6 years and I have said no to you approximately 11,000 times, and I want you to understand that the number's not going to change tonight just because you're outdoors. Your daughter's 400 meters away. I'm aware, she's watching. I'm aware of that too. Mike, I will." And Michael Carter said, "Ken asked me why I put my hands up." Silence. "What? I've been standing in this road for 14 minutes with my hands up," Michael Carter said. "You've had a car and 4 men and a helicopter. Ask me why I put my hands up and left them up." 2338. Halloran said, "Because you're not armed." "No." "Because you wanted the cameras." "No." "Then why?" And Michael Carter said, "Because if my hands are up, she won't shoot." 2339. The whole valley went silent. "Ken Husher," Michael Carter said, "there's a 17-year-old on that berm with 40 rounds in a solution on your chest, and the only thing standing between you and the ground for the last 14 minutes has been my 2 hands in the air. Because that girl was raised by me, and I raised her not to shoot past a man with his hands up." Halloran didn't say anything. "So here's where we are," Michael Carter said. "You want me on that helicopter? Fine, I'll walk. But Ken, I want you to understand exactly what you're asking for, because the second I put my hands down," Halloran said, "Mike, the second I put my hands down." Michael Carter said, "You don't have a hostage anymore. You have a man standing between you and my kid." 2340. And Emily Carter on the berm said, "Dad, Dad, don't. Baby, Dad, don't put your hands down." And Michael Carter said very gently on every speaker in the valley, "Honey, I'm not going to. That's the whole point. I'm going to keep them right here all night if I have to, because he can't shoot me while I'm being watched, and he can't take me while I'm being recorded. And Emmy, he can't do anything at all as long as everybody's looking." Silence. And then Halloran said, "That's true." And he raised his hand and made a small circular motion at the helicopter, and every light on that facility went out again. 2341. "Reyes," Walker screamed, "It's not me! Master Chief, it's not me! He's got the breaker!" "Kessler, where are you?" 100 meters from the gate. Boone eyes on Carter. "I've got nothing, Master Chief. I've got no light and no nods. He burned us at 2211. And Emily Carter said into the dark in a voice like a nail, "I have him." Everything stopped. 2342. "Say again," Walker said. "I have him." "Emily, there's no light. I don't need light." "Emily." "Master Chief," she said, I've had my eye on that road for 19 minutes. I know where the car is. I know where the door is. I know my dad is 11 feet off the car's front bumper, and Halloran is 4 feet to his left and 1 foot behind. I built the picture before the lights went. It's still there. It doesn't go away when the lights do. Boone whispered, "That's not possible." And Kessler, running in the dark, gasping, said, "Boone, that's exactly what her father did in Kandahar. That's exactly what he did." 2343. Emily Walker said, "Listen to me. I'm listening. You cannot take that shot. I know. You cannot take that shot because you can't ID him, and because he's 4 feet from your father, and because if you're 1 inch wrong, I know, Master Chief, then take your finger off." "My finger is it on the trigger?" she screamed. "It hasn't been on the trigger for 19 minutes. What do you think I am?" Silence, and Walker, standing on a berm in the dark, said quietly, "I think you're the best shooter I've ever stood next to, and I think you're 17, and I think I've spent 4 hours being wrong about which one of those matters." 2344. And then out of the dark, from 400 meters away, came Michael Carter's voice. Not on the PA, just his voice, just a man shouting in a desert. "Emmy, Dad." Emmy hands are still up. "I hear you. They're still up, baby." And Emily Carter, 17, on a berm in the dark, with her cheek on the stock and her finger off the trigger, screamed back across 400 meters of freezing Nevada. "I know, Daddy, I can see you." 2345. Nobody on that net said anything for a long moment. Then Boone said thickly, "Master Chief, I've got 4 kids." "I know, Boone." "Master Chief, I've got 4 kids and I know." And then the 4 men in the road, the ones with the zip ties, the ones who had stopped taking orders about 2 minutes ago, did a thing that nobody had planned for. The one in front turned on a flashlight. Just a flashlight, a little white one off his belt, and he pointed it straight up in the air. Boone said, "What's he doing?" And then the second man turned his on, and the third, and the fourth. 4 white lights pointed straight up in the middle of a road in the dark. Tanner said, "Oh, you beautiful sons of 2346. Halloran's voice screaming, the warmth gone out of it entirely. "Put those out." And the man in front said, "No, sir, put them out." "Sir," he said, "I'd like it on the record that at 2346 I turned on a light." Boone started laughing. "Sir," the man said, "I'd like it on the record that everybody could see." 2347. And Reyes said on the net, Master Chief, the tower feeds are on backup. The cameras never went off. He killed the lights, he didn't kill the cameras, and Master Chief, they're infrared." Silence. "They've been recording the entire time," Reyes said. "In the dark, everything. Master Chief, they've got him. They've got him standing next to Carter with a rifle in his hands." Boone said, wait. He picked up the rifle. Kessler gasping, running. He picked up the rifle. And Tanner said very slowly, "Master Chief, that man is standing in a road on a Navy range, holding a weapon he took off a man with his hands up, and it is on infrared, and he doesn't know." 2348. And Walker said, "Reyes, go. Turn the lights on." "What?" "Turn every light on this facility on right now." "Master Chief, he's got the breaker." "Reyes," Walker said, "you've been a range officer for 11 years. Tell me you don't have a manual override." A pause, and Reyes said, "It's a red handle, Master Chief. It's on the wall. It's been there since 1984. "Pull it." 2349. Every light in that valley came on at once, and 400 meters of Nevada desert lit up like a stadium. And there in the middle of it, in the glare on 11 cameras in front of 12 SEALs and 4 of his own men, and a 17-year-old girl and a range officer with his hand on a red handle, from 1984 stood a man in a topcoat holding another man's rifle, 4 feet from a prisoner with his hands in the air. Nobody moved. Nobody said one word. And then Boone, into the net, absolutely wrecked with laughter, said, "Smile, you son of a..." 2350. Halloran dropped the rifle. He dropped it like it had gone hot in his hands, and he stepped back from it, and he raised his mic, and his voice came out, and it was not warm, and it was not calm, and it was not anything. "Master Chief Walker." "Halloran." "Master Chief, you don't understand what you're doing." "I think I do." "You have 12 men and a girl and 41 photographs on a phone," Halloran said. And I have a building. Yeah, Walker said, you do. So what exactly do you think happens tomorrow? And Master Chief Daniel Walker said, tomorrow a whole lot of people who are on this range tonight go home and tell their wives. That's what happens, Halloran. That's the part you can't file. You can take my recording, and you can take my phone, and you can take my career, and you can put me in a room, and there's still going to be 12 men and 4 of yours, and a range officer, and a kid, and every one of them is going to spend the rest of their lives knowing. Silence. You can't redact a man's memory, Walker said. You can only outlive it. And Halloran, look at what's standing on my berm. She's 17. You're going to have to outlive her. 2351. And Halloran said very quietly, then I suppose I don't have anything left to lose. And he got in his car, and he started the engine. And Boone said, Master Chief. And Walker said, what's he doing? And Kessler from 100 meters out screamed, Master Chief, he's not leaving, he's turning. 2352. The car came around in the road. Its headlights swung across the desert and settled on one thing, a man standing with his hands up. Emily screamed, Dad! And Michael Carter did not run. He turned and he faced the headlights, and he kept his hands in the air. And every human being in that valley understood at the same instant exactly what was about to happen and exactly why he wasn't moving. Because if he moved, the car went past him, and 400 meters behind him on a berm was his daughter. 2352 and 20 seconds. Emily, Walker screamed. Emily, take the shot. I can't. Dad's in the... Emily, he's in the line, Master Chief. He's standing in the line. Then move him. He won't move. He won't move. He's not moving. Dad, move. 2352 and 30 seconds. And Michael Carter shouted one thing across 400 meters of desert at his daughter. And it was not goodbye. And it was not, I love you, and it was 4 words, and they were the only 4 words he had ever really given her. Wind always tells the truth. Emily said, what? Wind always tells the truth, Emmy. Listen. 2352 and 40 seconds. And Emily Carter, 17 years old with a car accelerating toward her father at 400 meters, took her eye off the glass. Boone screamed, she's off the gun. And she lifted her head into that freezing Nevada wind coming down off the high ground 4 miles an hour, left to right, honest as a knife, exactly the way she'd called it at 10 o'clock. And she said out loud to nobody, he's not talking about the shot. 2352 and 50 seconds. Reyes, she screamed. Reyes, the gate. What? The north gate, is it closed? Silence. Reyes, is the north gate closed? And Reyes said, it's open. He badged through at 2231. It's been open since. Close it. Kid, he's not going for the gate. He's going for your. Reyes, Emily screamed. He's going to run my dad down, and then he's going to drive out that gate. And the only thing in this valley that proves any of this is a box on a pole at that gate. Close it. 2353. And Kessler, 90 meters from the north gate with a phone in his pocket and 41 photographs on it, heard every word of that on the net and stopped running toward the box and turned and ran at the gate. Boone said, Kessler, what are you? It's a barrier arm. Kessler gasped. It's a hydraulic arm, Reyes. If I drop it manually, can he get through? It's rated for a truck, Reyes shouted. Kessler, it'll stop a truck. Then drop it. There's no manual, it's electric. You'd have to be standing at the... And Kessler said, I'm standing at the box. 2353 and 20 seconds. Kessler, get out of the road, Walker screamed. Master Chief, he's coming through here. Kessler, Master Chief, Kessler said, and he was breathing so hard he could barely get it out, and he had not spoken more than 9 words in a row to another human being in 9 years, Master Chief. I've got a phone with an old man's face on it, and there is exactly 1 wire in this valley that goes anywhere, and I'm standing next to it. 2353 and 40 seconds. Kessler, Master Chief, permission to be useful. And the car hit the far end of the road doing 70. 2354. And Emily Carter put her cheek back on the stock. And Walker said, Emily, do you have a shot? No, then. Emily, Master Chief, my father is standing directly in the line and he will not move. And if I fire, I hit him. Then what are you doing? And Emily Carter said, I'm not shooting the driver. Boone said, what? 2354 and 10 seconds. Master Chief, Emily said, and her voice went absolutely perfectly flat, the way it had gone at the 400, the way it had gone before 6 cranial hits in a row. At 22:34, that car stopped 100 meters short, and Halloran got out and stood in front of his own headlights so we could all see his hands. So what, Bez? Emily, what are you doing? He never turned the engine off, she said. Silence. He's been idling for 20 minutes in 22-degree air, Emily said. And I've been looking at his hood the entire time. And Master Chief, do you know what a car does when it idles for 20 minutes in the cold? 2,354 and 20 seconds. Kessler screamed, "It makes heat." "It makes a signature," Reyes screamed. And Emily Carter said, "It makes a target." And she fired, 2,354 and 25 seconds. One round. Not at a man, not at a windshield. At the one thing in that entire valley that was glowing white hot on a freezing December night at 400 meters low forward and 11 feet to the right of a man standing with his hands in the air. The car went off the road, 2,354 and 30 seconds. It did not stop. It slewed hard and left the pavement 40 feet short of Michael Carter and went into the desert on 3 wheels, and the sound of it going was the sound of something enormous being told no. And it came to rest sideways in the dirt, and Michael Carter was still standing in the road, with his hands up. 2,355. Nobody said anything. Not one man on that net said one word. Then Boone said in a voice like a child's, "She shot the wheel." Tanner said, "Boone, she shot the wheel, Master Chief, at 400 meters in the dark, on a moving car, with her father 11 feet off the line." And Reyes said on an open net to 12 SEALs and 4 federal officers and a girl, "That's not a wheel. That's a wheel and a brake line, and Master Chief, look at where it stopped." Look at where it stopped. 2,355 and 30 seconds. Kessler said, quietly, standing at a box on a pole at the north gate with a phone in his hand. It stopped in front of the cameras. 2,356. And Emily Carter worked her bolt cheek down, eye on the glass, and said the only thing she said for the next full minute. "Uncle Roy taught me that." 2,356 and 20 seconds. "Nobody touched that car," Walker said. "Master Chief, nobody touches that car." He was already coming down off the berm. "Boone, Tanner, you stay in that road. Kessler, you stay on that box. Reyes, tell me the cameras are still live." "They're live, Master Chief. Infrared and white light, both. Everything since 2211. Then nobody in this valley does one single thing that they'd be ashamed to watch." 2,357. The 4 men in the road had not moved. They were standing there with their flashlights still pointed at the sky. 4 little white columns going up into nothing, and the one in front turned and looked at the car in the dirt, and then looked at Walker coming down the berm. "Master Chief," he said. "What's your name, son?" "Delgado, Master Chief." "How long you been doing this, Delgado?" 4 years. "You got a supervisor besides that man?" A pause. "Yes, Master Chief." "Is he awake right now?" And Delgado said he is now. 2,357 and 40 seconds. Boone said, "Say again." Delgado reached into his jacket very slowly with 2 fingers, the way a man does when 12 SEALs are watching his hands, and pulled out a phone. "I called him at 23:32, he said. Nobody breathed. When I asked how old she was, Delgado said, and nobody answered me, I hit the button in my pocket. He's been on the line for 25 minutes. Tanner said, "You've had an open line for 25 minutes. "Yes, Chief." "To who?" And Delgado said, "To the deputy director." 2,358. Boone sat down in the road. He just sat down right there on the pavement and put his hands on his head. "Master Chief," he said, "the deputy director of what?" "Of the office that redacted her file," Delgado said. Reyes made a sound on the net like a man being strangled. Delgado Walker said very carefully, "Is he on that line right now?" "He is." "Has he said anything?" And Delgado held the phone up and turned the speaker on, and a voice came out of it, small and tinny, in the middle of a freezing desert, and said, "Master Chief Walker, this is Ellis Hartman. Don't let anybody go near that vehicle, and don't let anybody touch Mr. Delacroix. And Master Chief, I need to say something to you that I am going to regret for the rest of my life." Walker said, "Say it." And Hartman said, "I signed her orders too." 2,359. Emily's voice came off the berm, low and terrible. Master Chief? Emily, stay where you are. Master Chief, who is that? Emily, who is that? And the voice from the phone said, Miss Carter, my name is Ellis Hartman, and 11 hours ago I put my signature on a document that put you on that range. And I did it because Kenneth Halloran walked into my office with a folder and told me your father had been located and that this was a family reunification, and I did not read the folder. Silence. I did not read the folder, Hartman said again. It was Christmas Eve. I had a car waiting. I signed 11 things in 4 minutes, and yours was the 9th. 2,359 and 30 seconds. Emily said you didn't read it. No. You put me on a live range with a rifle and 12 strangers, and you didn't read it. That's correct. An old man is dead, Emily said, and her voice cracked straight down the middle. Roy Delacroix is dead on a water tower because you had a car waiting. Nobody said anything. And then Hartman said, yes. And that was worse than anything he could have argued. 0 hours, Christmas Day. The clock rolled over and nobody noticed except Reyes, who saw it change on the range console and said to nobody, Merry Christmas, and then put his head down on the desk. Master Chief waiting, Hartman said, there are 2 things happening right now and I want you to hear both of them. The first is that I have people in the air out of Nellis. They'll be on your facility in 18 minutes. They are not Hallorans. Boone said, how do we know that? You don't, Hartman said. Chief, I understand exactly how little my word is worth to you at 4 minutes past midnight. So here's the second thing. Master Chief, I want you to keep Mr. Delgado's line open, and I want you to point one of your range cameras at that vehicle, and I want you to do nothing else, because at this moment, the single most valuable thing in the United States is a Navy range that is still recording. 001. And Walker said, where's Halloran? Everything stopped. Reyes Walker said, where's Halloran? He's in the car, Master Chief. Is he moving? A pause. Master Chief, Reyes said slowly, I've got him on infrared, and he's sitting in the driver's seat, and he is not moving at all. Kessler said from the gate, is he hurt? Kid put a round through the front wheel and a brake line at 400 meters. Chief, she didn't put one through him. Then why isn't he moving 002? And Michael Carter, still standing in the road with his hands in the air, 40 feet from a car in a ditch, said quietly into a mic he had been holding for 28 minutes. He's not moving because he's doing math. Boone said, what? Danny Michael Carter said, listen to me. Ken Halloran has never once in his life been in a situation he didn't already know the ending of. Not one, that's his whole gift. He walks into a room where he already knows what everybody's going to say. A pause. He's sitting in that car right now trying to find a version of the next 4 minutes where he still wins, and Danny, he's not finding one. And I need you to understand that a man like that has never felt this before in his entire life. Walker said, Mike, what does he do? And Michael Carter said, I don't know, and that terrifies me because I've known him for 19 years, and I have always known. 003. Master Chief, Reyes said. Doors opening. Everybody hold. Master Chief, he's getting out. Nobody moves, nobody says a word. Delgado, your line's still open. Open, Master Chief. Hartman, you hearing this? I'm hearing it. And Kenneth Halloran climbed out of a car in a ditch at 3 minutes past midnight on Christmas morning and stood up in the dirt, and every light in the valley was on him, and he had nothing in his hands. 003 and 30 seconds. He didn't have the mic anymore, so he had to shout. And that was the thing Emily Carter would remember for the rest of her life, more than the shot, more than the tower, more than any of it. That a man who had spent the entire night speaking to a whole valley in a warm and pleasant voice through every speaker on the base had to stand in a ditch on Christmas morning and shout like a person. Master Chief, Walker did not answer. Master Chief Walker, nothing. I'd like to talk. And Boone said out loud in a voice that carried, sorry, buddy, you're gonna have to come to us. 004. He came. He walked 40 feet through the dirt and up onto the road in a topcoat at midnight, with his hands out from his sides past Michael Carter, and he did not look at him, and Michael Carter did not look at him either, and Emily Carter watched the whole thing through 400 meters of glass and did not breathe once. He stopped in front of the 4 men with the flashlights. Mr. Delgado? Sir, put your hands on me. Silence. Sir, put your hands on me, Halloran said. I'm your detainee. Do it now before somebody else does and it stays in the family. And Delgado said, no, sir. 005. Mr. Delgado. Sir, I've had the deputy director on an open line since 2332. Halloran did not move. For the first time all night, for the first time in 19 years, Kenneth Halloran did not have a single thing to say. Sir, Delgado said he heard the tower tape. 005 and 40 seconds. And then Halloran did the thing that told Walker everything about what kind of man he was. He turned around and he looked for Emily. 400 meters away up on a lit berm, he found her and he raised his voice and he shouted across that whole desert at a 17-year-old girl, Emily, they're going to ask you why you shot an unarmed 60-year-old man at 450 meters, and I want you to know that I will be there and I will help you. Boone said, oh, you. Emily. Halloran shouted, I'm the only person in this valley who can make that go away. 006. And Emily Carter came down off that berm. Walker said, Emily, no. She came down the face of it with her rifle slung on her back, and she walked past Tanner and past Boone and past 4 men with flashlights, and she stopped in front of a man in a top coat, and she was 5'4" and he was 6'1", and she looked straight up at him, and she said, no. Halloran said, Emily, no, she said, you don't get to make it go away. That's the whole thing. That's what you've been doing your entire life, and you're doing it right now at midnight in a ditch with nothing left because it's the only sentence you know. He didn't say anything. I shot Roy Delacroix, Emily said. Me? My finger. At 450 in the dark first round, and he was unarmed, and he was 60 years old, and he taught me when I was 8. Her voice did not break. That was the thing that made Walker's chest cave in. It did not break. And I'm going to say that out loud in a room to anybody who asks for the rest of my life, every single time. And nobody is going to make it go away because it doesn't go away and I don't want it to. 007. You want to know why you lost? Emily said. Halloran said nothing. Because you thought the worst thing that could happen to me was carrying it, she said. You thought if you made me shoot him, I'd be so broken I'd sign anything to make it stop. She took one step closer. Mr. Halloran, I've been carrying my father for 6 years. 6 years of a black rectangle. You think you can hurt me with weight's the only thing I've got. Weight's the only reason I can shoot. Nobody in that valley moved. You brought a hammer to a girl made of anvils, Emily said. Tanner turned his face away and did not turn it back for a while. 008. And then Emily Carter did the thing that nobody, not one person on that range saw coming. She put her hand out. Give me the badge, she said. Halloran said, what? My father's badge. You reactivated it. You gave it to him this afternoon so he could walk through a gate and be on a log. It's in your pocket. Silence. It's in your pocket, Emily said, because you took it back off him in the road at 2335 when you picked up his rifle because you're a man who collects things and you couldn't help yourself. 008 in 30 seconds. Halloran's hand moved 1 inch toward his coat before he could stop it. And Boone said, oh, Reyes, Emily said without turning around, is that on camera? And Reyes said on the PA on every speaker in the valley, kid, that's on 4 cameras. 009. Sir, Delgado said quietly, I'm going to need the badge. Halloran took it out of his pocket. He looked at it for a second, and then he handed it to a 17-year-old girl in an oversized jacket in the middle of a road on Christmas morning, and that was the last thing Kenneth Halloran ever did as a free man. 010. Emily didn't look at it. She turned around and she walked 40 feet down that road to where her father was standing with his hands in the air, and she stopped in front of him. And she said, Dad, Emmy, put your hands down. And Michael Carter said, not yet, baby. 010 in 20 seconds. Emily said, what? Not yet. Dad, it's over. Emmy listened to me. His arms had been up for 38 minutes, and they were shaking so badly she could see it from 6 feet away. There are 12 rifles behind you and 4 federal officers and a man on a phone I've never met, and I've been in a room for 6 years, and honey, I do not know a single one of these people. The only thing keeping me alive for the last half hour has been the fact that everybody can see my hands. Dad, so I'm going to keep them up, Michael Carter said. until somebody with authority tells me out loud on a recording that I can put them down. 011, and nobody said anything, because nobody in that valley had that authority. Not Walker, not Delgado, not Reyes. And then a small, tinny voice came out of a phone in a federal officer's hand in the middle of a Nevada road, and it said, "Captain Carter." "Sir, this is Ellis Hartman. I'm the deputy director. My people are 11 minutes out." A pause. "Captain, put your hands down." 011 and 30 seconds. Michael Carter didn't move. "Captain." "Sir," he said. "With respect, I'd like it on the record." And Hartman said, "It's 011 on the 25th of December. This is Ellis Hartman, and I am ordering Captain Michael Carter to lower his hands. And Captain, I want you to know that I'm going to spend the rest of my career explaining why it took 11 hours and a 17-year-old to get me to say that sentence." 012. Michael Carter put his hands down, and then he fell. Boone got to him first, and Tanner second, and Emily was already there. And the sound she made when she got her arms around him was not a sound anybody on that range talked about afterward. He was saying something into her hair. Walker was close enough to hear it, and he never told anybody what it was, not his wife, not his daughter, not in 22 years. What he heard was a man saying over and over, "I heard you call it. 10 o'clock, 4 left to right. I heard you call it, baby. I heard you call it." 013. Kessler came down the road from the north gate. He walked up to Walker and held out his phone. "Master Chief, did it send me?" "No." Silence. Master Chief Kessler said, "The gate note is a garbage little box, and it does exactly one thing. And it does it twice a day, and I couldn't put a photograph on it if I had a year." Boone said, "So we got nothing." And Kessler said, "We've got 41 photographs on a phone that has never touched this network, and it's in my hand, and I'm standing here, and Master Chief, it turns out that's the whole trick." He laughed once exhausted. "You don't have to send it. You just have to still have it when the sun comes up." 014. Reyes, go Master Chief. How much audio have you got? 6 hours and 11 minutes local on a server in a hut with a red handle from 1984. Is it safe? And Reyes said, "Master Chief, I've been sitting on it with my hand on the box for 40 minutes, and I have not moved, and I have to go to the bathroom so bad I could cry." Boone started laughing and could not stop. 015. "Master Chief," Delgado said, "the aircraft's on final." Delgado, "Sir." "Don't call me sir, I work for a living." Walker put his hand out. "You turned a flashlight on." Delgado shook it. "Master Chief," he said, "I'd like the record to show I turned it on at 2346. "The record shows it," Reyes said on the PA. "The record shows all 4 of you." 016. They came out of the dark at 016, and they were not Hallorans. And the first thing off that aircraft was a woman in a windbreaker with a camera on her chest, who walked straight past 12 SEALs and said, "Who's touched the body?" Kessler said, "Nobody." "Who's touched the vehicle?" "Nobody." "Who's touched the detainee?" "Nobody." And she stopped and looked around at a valley full of men with their hands empty and said, "You're kidding me." And Boone said, "Ma'am, our Master Chief says the house takes notes." 022. They took Halloran at 022, and he did not fight, and he did not say a word. And the last thing he did before they put him in the aircraft was turn his head and look for Emily one more time. He found her. She was sitting on the road with her father's head in her lap. She did not look up. That Walker thought was the exact moment Kenneth Halloran stopped existing. 041. They brought Roy Delacroix down off the tower at 41 past midnight, and every man on that range came off whatever he was doing and stood in the road with his cover off, and nobody had ordered it, and nobody had suggested it. Emily stood up. Walker said, "Emily, you don't have to." "Master Chief." She said, "I do." And she stood in that road 17 years old and watched them carry down a man she had killed at 450 meters, and she did not look away one time, and Boone had to turn around, and Tanner had to turn around, and Kessler, who had not cried in 9 years, did not turn around and stood there and let it happen on his face. 044. The woman in the windbreaker came up to Emily afterward with a clipboard. "Miss Carter, I have to ask you some questions, and I have to ask them now." "Okay. Is there an adult who can be present? And Emily said, my father's right there. And the woman looked at Michael Carter sitting on the pavement, 6 years out of a room, and said very quietly, ma'am, legally, I'm not sure he counts yet. 045. And Master Chief Daniel Walker said, I'll stand with her. The woman said, and I'm the man who ran the range. Master Chief, you're a subject of this investigation. Yes, ma'am. Then you can't. Ma'am, Walker said, at 1800 hours tonight, that girl walked into my chow hall and I held her file up in front of 11 men and made a joke about her age. And she stood there and took it and didn't say one word. And then she went out and shot the best course I've seen in 31 years. And then she saved my life and my captain's life and probably yours. Silence. I'm going to stand next to her while she answers your questions, Walker said. And if that cost me my career, ma'am, it's the cheapest thing I've bought all night. 046. The woman looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, Master Chief, sit down. You look terrible. And she turned to Emily and said, Miss Carter, I'm going to ask you one question first, and I want you to know that I already know the answer because I've listened to 11 minutes of a tower tape on the way here, and I'm asking it anyway because it has to be on my recorder. Okay. At 22:28, did you identify your target? And Emily Carter said, no, ma'am. 046 and 40 seconds. The whole road went silent. Boone said, kid. Boone, Walker said. Master Chief, she doesn't have to. Boone. No, ma'am, Emily said again clearly into the recorder. I saw a man on a tower at 450 meters at night wearing a jacket with my father's name on it, and my Master Chief called a threat, and I fired, and I did not identify him. I want that written down exactly like that. Don't soften it. The woman with the clipboard stopped writing. Miss Carter, she said, do you understand that's the only sentence in this entire event that could be used against you? And Emily said, yes, ma'am. That's why I said it first. 047. Kessler said out loud to nobody, God Almighty. And Michael Carter, sitting on the pavement, said, that's how I raised her. 048. Miss Carter, the woman said slowly, I want to give you a piece of information, and I'm giving it to you because you just did something I've been doing this job 11 years and have never once seen. She lowered the clipboard. Roy Delacroix was on a tower with a spotting scope and a thermos and a coat. And he was there because Kenneth Halloran put him there. And Halloran told him to put on that jacket, and he refused, and Halloran forced him. I know. Miss Carter, he refused for 40 minutes. Emily's face did something. He knew what the jacket meant, the woman said. He knew exactly. And he sat on a tower in 22-degree air and refused for 40 minutes, and then a man put it on him by force, and 40 seconds before you fired, that old man was still trying to get it off. 049. Emily said, what? It's on the tower, Mike, the woman said. You can hear him. Miss Carter at 22:27. Roy Delacroix was standing up on that tower in the open in the light, trying to pull that jacket off his own shoulders with his wrists zip-tied together. Emily's legs went. Walker caught her. He was trying to show you, the woman said. He knew you were on the berm. He knew what your line was. He'd taught you. And he stood up in the light and tried to get it off so you'd see him and not the name. 050. He almost made it, the woman said. And Emily Carter, in a Master Chief's arms, in a road on Christmas morning, said the only thing she had left. He always was faster than me. 058. Walker sat down next to Michael Carter on the pavement. They didn't say anything for a long time. Then Mike said, you said her name. What? On the 930 minutes before all this, you said Sarah. Walker said, I've said it every time for 11 years. I know, I heard you say it in a stairwell at 0351. Mike didn't look at him. Danny, I turned my radio off because I couldn't listen to you say it again. Walker put his face in his hands. You were saying it to tell me you were staying, Mike said. I know what you were doing. You were going to stay, and I couldn't have that. So I turned it off. And Danny, I have thought about that one decision every day for 6 years. And I want you to hear me say this out loud one time, and then we never do it again. Mike? I'd do it again, Michael Carter said. Every time. I'd do it 1,000 times, and you'd walk out with 8 men 1,000 times, and I'd sit in a room 1,000 times. And Danny, look at that road. Look at what walked into your range tonight in a jacket 3 sizes too big. Walker looked. You want to tell me I made the wrong call, Mike said. Walker couldn't answer. Yeah, Mike said. Me neither. 059. At 1 minute to 1 in the morning on Christmas Day, Chief Boone came down that road with something in his hands. Master Chief? What is it, Boone? It's, He was embarrassed. Boone, who had 4 kids and no shame, was embarrassed. Master Chief, we made it during the evaluation. When she was on the 400, it was a joke. What was? Boone opened his hands. It was a patch. Somebody had cut it out of the corner of a range flag, and somebody else had stitched it with the kind of stitches men make when they've never done it before, and it was a lopsided little desert shape with a crosshair where a star should be. Tanner made it, Boone said. Boone, Master Chief Tanner made it at 2120 because he thought she was going to wash out, and he wanted to give it to her as a joke. Boone's voice broke. He wanted to give a 17-year-old a joke patch, Master Chief. 0100. Tanner came up behind him. He didn't say anything. He just stood there holding his cover in his hands like a man at a funeral. Chief, Walker said, Master Chief, I don't want to give it to her. Why not? Because I made it to be cruel, Tanner said. And Walker said, Chief, at 2327, you walked into a road and stood in front of 4 men with your hands down for a girl you laughed at 4 hours earlier. Give her the patch. 0101. Tanner walked over to where Emily was sitting on the pavement next to her father. He crouched down. Miss Carter. Chief. I made this at 2120, Tanner said. I want you to know that before you take it. I made it because I thought you were going to fail, and I wanted to have something ready to embarrass you with. Emily looked at him. And, she said, and then you shot my course, Tanner said, and I sat down in the dirt at 2230, and I stitched the crosshair on. And Miss Carter, I want you to know that the desert part was cruel and the crosshair part wasn't. 0102. Emily took it. She turned it over in her hands. What's it say? She asked. It doesn't say anything. Chief, they're stitching on the back. Tanner looked at the ground. Boone did that, he said. And Boone, standing 11 feet away with his cover in his hand, said, it says Desert Guardian Kid. I know it's dumb. I got 4 kids. Everything I make is dumb. 0103. Emily Carter, 17 years old, sat in a road on Christmas morning with her father's head against her shoulder and a dead man's lesson in her hands and a joke patch that had stopped being a joke, and she did not cry. She said, thank you. And Tanner said, Miss Carter, I laughed at you. And Emily said, Chief, everybody laughs at me. You're the first one who ever stood in a road about it. 0104. Tanner Walker, Boone Kessler, Reyes Delgado. 6 names on a report that took 14 months to write. Kenneth Halloran was arraigned in March. Ellis Hartman resigned in April and testified in June for 9 hours and did not ask for one thing in exchange. Captain Michael Carter's file was unsealed in September, and the black rectangles came off 1 page at a time, and underneath them was a man who had said no 11,000 times. Master Chief Daniel Walker was investigated for 11 months and cleared in one afternoon, and the officer who cleared him set off the record that the deciding piece of evidence was a 17-year-old girl saying, no, ma'am, I did not identify my target into a recorder at 046 on Christmas morning when nobody would have known if she'd lied. Roy Delacroix's name went on a wall in Montana. Emily paid for it. She was 18 by then and she had a job. Years later, Walker got a photograph in the mail with no return address. Emily older, standing with people whose faces were blurred in a place with no name, and on her shoulder stitched crooked by a man with 4 kids who had never sewn anything in his life, a lopsided desert shape with a crosshair where the star should be. On the back in pen, thank you for reminding me I was still human. He put it on the shelf next to the picture of Sarah, and he stood there for a while, and then he went and made coffee, because that's what you do. But here's what he thought about every Christmas Eve for the rest of his life. 11 grown men laughed at a girl in a jacket 3 sizes too big, and 4 hours later, 12 of them walked into a road with their hands down and stood in front of her. That's not a story about a sniper. That's the whole thing. She was never a weapon. She was a daughter who refused to become one on the one night in her life when it would have been easiest, and every man who laughed at her learned it standing up in the cold with his hat in his hands.